Chapter 1363. Yongye Chushue said, "It is said that this lake was formed by the tears of a dragon. It contains natural dragon power. If you fly over it, you will be shocked by the dragon power and lose the ability to fly. You will fall into the lake and drown. Only special boats can cross it." Dragon power? Suyu smiled faintly. "However, I have made preparations to deal with the dragon power." Yongye Chushue took out 2 sachets and gave one to Suyu. "This is the body of a divine dragon from the royal family. It contains enough dragon power to offset the dragon power in the lake. It should be no problem for you to cross the lake." Suyu thought to himself that she had indeed prepared last night. After stuffing the sachet into his belt, Suyu and Yongye Chushue immediately flew to the island in the lake. Sure enough, as soon as they flew over the lake, they felt the majesty of a divine dragon coming from the lake, which made Suyu's mortal fairy's strength stagnant. However, the sachet at his waist also exuded a dragon power, which offset most of the dragon power in the lake. The stagnant feeling dissipated a lot. In this way, they flew over most of the lake in peace. However, just as they were about to reach the shore, a vague dragon roar suddenly rushed out of the lake. The dragon power contained in the dragon roar erupted and rushed straight at them. The mortal fairy's strength in Suyu's body suddenly froze. His feet loosened and he was about to fall. Yongye Chushue was not much better. After a moment of stalemate, her face tightened and her body fell. On the island, many princes and princesses looked at her with mocking eyes. If Yongye Chushue drowned like this, she would become a laughingstock. Suyu's face was expressionless, and a layer of vague dragon scales appeared on the surface of his body. As soon as the dragon scales appeared, the surging dragon power lost its effect. Who could compete with the World Annihilation Dragon in terms of dragon power? Suyu steadied his body in time. At the same time, he reached out and grasped Yongye Chushue's soft white hand, secretly stabilizing her. Yongye Chushue understood. She was carried by Suyu as if nothing had happened, and they flew to the island side by side. In the eyes of the outside world, they just stopped in midair for a while. Not to mention falling into the lake, they did not even look embarrassed at all. After landing on the ground, Yongye Chushue withdrew her palm. Her cheeks were flushed, and the warmth of Suyu's palm still lingered in her palm. Prince Yun looked on coldly from the sidelines, as if he had just noticed them. He led the princes and princesses forward and cupped his fists in a hypocritical manner. "I'm really sorry. We were busy with the arrangements and had to trouble your highness to cross the lake in person. What a sin!" Yongye Chushue said calmly. "Now that you know you have sinned, you can atone for your sins with your death." The smile on Prince Yun's face froze and he was stunned. The other princes and princesses were also stunned. No one had expected Yongye Chushue to say something like that. "I'm just kidding," Yongye Chushue said, casting a mischievous look at Suyu. The muscles on Prince Yun's face twitched. They had failed to embarrass Yongye Chushue. Instead, it was Yongye Chushue who had made them uncomfortable. "Haha, princess, you're such an interesting person," Prince Yun laughed. The malice hidden in the depths of his smile deepened. Yongye Chushue looked around. "Is it interesting? Wouldn't a banquet be more interesting?" The princes and princesses sneered inwardly. It would indeed be interesting. The corners of Prince Yun's mouth curled up into a sinister smile, but he quickly concealed it. He said elegantly, "Of course. Before the banquet begins, why don't we have a show to liven things up?" Clap, clap. Prince Yun clapped his hands, and Shui Zhongbao walked out from among the princes, looking menacing. "Oh? What's so interesting about humans?" Yongye Chushue asked calmly. Prince Yun chuckled. "Of course there's nothing interesting about humans. But if it's a sparring match, of course it'll be interesting." Yongye Chushue's interest was piqued. "Sparring? I've heard that each of you princes has your own merits. I've been wanting to witness it for a long time. What's so interesting about a sparring match between the princes of the Shui nation? Why don't you let your attendant participate? Prince Yun said with a smile. Yongye Chushua said, Prince Shui is a level 5 deity, while my friend is only a stage 4 mortal fairy. The difference is too great. What's the point of sparring? Prince Yun smiled and said, You don't have to be so modest, princess. This follower of yours. Oh, this friend of yours is a practitioner who has mastered the cultivation of his physique. He may seem to be only a stage 4 mortal fairy, but the toughness of his physique is comparable to that of a level 6 deity. In terms of physique, he has a strong advantage. Yongye Chushua looked disinterested. That's still boring. The difference between a level 5 and a level 6 deity is like the difference between clouds and mud. Besides, sparring matches are not just about physical strength. If this is the interesting sparring match you've prepared, I'm very disappointed. At this point, anyone with a discerning eye could see that Yongye Chushua was protecting Su Yu and preventing him from getting into danger. However, the princes of the Shui nation had prepared meticulously. How could they allow their plan to fail? Princess, you've misunderstood. This sparring match is not about strength, but courage and guts, Prince Yun said with a smile. Yongye Chushua asked, What do you mean? Prince Yun pointed to the lake. There is a priceless emperor-based saint artifact at the bottom of the lake, ranked 208. It is called the Pearl of Divine Thunder. It was refined by the 9 emperors in the past by collecting the disastrous thunder of heaven and earth. If this item is activated, it can withstand any powerful attack of thunder. However, there is some dragon might in this lake. If you're unlucky, you'll encounter the dragon roar that the princess saw just now. The energy in your body will be frozen and you'll drown. The sparring match this time is to enter the bottom of the lake. Whoever takes out the Pearl of Divine Thunder first will get to keep it. The group of princes chattered excitedly as if they, too, were envious of the treasure. Wow, such a good thing, I want to go down too. Really, Brother Yun is too generous, isn't he? Yeah, if I had known, I would have gone instead. Watching the princes and princesses putting on an act, Yongye Chushua sneered. She looked at Su Yu and asked, What do you think? Su Yu leaned against the trunk of a tree in boredom and said disdainfully, It's just an emperor-based saint artifact that ranks in the 200s. It's just a piece of junk. Since the princes and princesses of the Shui Empire like it so much, let them compete and snatch it. I'm happy to oblige. All of a sudden, the princes and princesses fell silent, not saying a word. If he really asked them to go down, who would dare? The dangers in the lake were fatal to them. Hey, didn't you say you wanted to go down just now? Why aren't you saying anything? Su Yu pointed to one of the princes. The prince's face turned pale, and he clutched his stomach, stammering. Well, my stomach hurts, and I'm not in peak condition. I'm afraid I can't go down with anyone. What about you? Do you think your brother is generous because he wants this emperor-based saint artifact? Go down, I'll grant you your wish. The princess's face was flushed, and she retreated guiltily. You heard wrong, I didn't say that. And you, if you want to compete so badly, go ahead. Su Yu pointed to another prince. The prince's forehead was covered in cold sweat, and he said angrily, I was just joking. Everyone who was pointed out by Su Yu backed off. Who would risk their lives for an emperor-based saint artifact that ranked in the 200s. They had thought that Su Yu was just a follower who had never seen the world, and that any emperor-based saint artifact would be enough to tempt him. Who would have thought that this fellow would look at them with disdain, which put them in a difficult position. When he finished, Su Yu looked at Prince Yun. See? It's just a piece of junk. Your younger brothers and sisters don't care about it, and yet you're using it to fool me, a distinguished guest. It's too shabby. If you want me to go down and test my courage, at least bring me something decent. Upon hearing that, Prince Yun's face fell, and he thought to himself, Who do you think you are to call yourself a distinguished guest? Our target is Yongye Chushua. However, now that things had come to this, This brat would not go down without a better emperor-based saint artifact. Alright, I've been rude. I'll prepare another emperor-based saint artifact. As he spoke, Prince Yun was about to take it out, but Suyu said, "Don't bring out the trashy stuff that ranks below the 100s. Yongye Wuheng's hand froze, and he slowly put down the emperor-based saint artifact that ranked 180th between his fingers, a mocking smile on his face. The rest of the princes and princesses blushed, obviously infuriated, because the artifacts they had in their hands were all trashy stuff, ranked below the 100s. Even Yongye Chushue could not help but smile. She thought to herself, he really dares to ask for it. Which of the emperor-based saint artifacts in the top 100 is not a rare treasure of heaven and earth, controlled by various great influences? Even the Shui nation of the Northern Territory only has 5, and 2 of them were snatched away by Suyu. Now he dares to ask for another one? Isn't he just trying to piss them off? Prince Yun suppressed his murderous intent. He did have an emperor-based saint artifact in the top 100. However, how could he be willing to hand it over to a lowly person like Suyu to fight for it? The rest of the princes and princesses exchanged glances. They had planned to toy with them for a while, but now it seemed that the situation was completely out of their control, so they might as well kill them directly. At that moment, Shui Zhongbao walked over and glared at Suyu with hidden hatred. He whispered to Prince Yun, "Why don't you agree to it? He's going to die at the bottom of the lake anyway. I'll help you fish this emperor-based saint artifact out again." After giving it some thought, Prince Yun agreed with him. They were all going to die today, so what was the point of getting the emperor-based saint artifact? Therefore, a smile reappeared on his face, and he took out an emerald cloud-colored flute. This is an emperor-based saint artifact that ranks 50th, the true sky flute of heavenly melody. Once it is played, it can produce the best celestial sound in the world, which can break all sound wave cultivation techniques in the world. Moreover, it is the only treasure among the top 100 emperor-based saint artifacts that can resist sorcery energy. Suyu's eyes lit up when he heard that. An emperor-based saint artifact that ranked 50th was pretty good. Now this is interesting. Alright, I accept the challenge, Suyu said. Prince Yun flashed a genial smile. With a wave of his hand, he tossed the true sky flute of heavenly melody into the center of the lake. He said with a smile, "The rules are the same. Whoever retrieves it will get the emperor-based saint artifact." Shui Zhongbao laughed. "Is there a need to say it? Of course it's mine." After that, he threw a provocative look at Suyu and jumped into the lake first. Suyu was not in a hurry. He took off his coat patiently and walked slowly to the lakeside. Prince Yun frowned. Shui Zhongbao couldn't stay at the bottom of the lake for long. If Suyu didn't go down, how was Shui Zhongbao going to make his move? "Aren't you afraid that Shui Zhongbao will get it before you do?" Prince Yun asked. Suyu replied with a chuckle, "What's there to be afraid of? He'll be waiting for me." Chapter 1364. A slight uneasiness lingered in his heart. Putong, what made him feel slightly relieved was that Suyu finally stopped dawdling and jumped into the lake. A smile tugged at the corner of Prince Yun's mouth as he asked Yongye Chushue, "Who do you think will win, princess?" Yongye Chushue said without hesitation, "Suyu, of course." Prince Yun sneered inwardly. Did he really think that it was as simple as fishing? With Shui Zhongbao's strength, killing Suyu at the bottom of the lake would be a piece of cake. Yongye Chushue, on the other hand, thought that since Suyu could remain unscathed under the dragon's roar just now, he must have some extraordinary treasures with him. Therefore, he might not be defeated by Shui Zhongbao. Suyu dove into the lake and quickly disappeared. Everyone could only wait in silence. Not long after Suyu dived into the lake, an endless and weak dragon power swept over and froze his mortal fairy strength. Then, scales appeared on Suyu's arm, and the dragon's might no longer affected him. In this way, Suyu was no different from being at the bottom of an ordinary lake. Before long, Su Yu came to the center of the lake and found a pearl that was emitting thunder and lightning. It was about the size of a fist. It was the divine thunder pearl, an object that could withstand the divine thunder of heaven and earth. After all, it was an emperor-based saint artifact. Su Yu certainly would not waste it. He took the divine thunder pearl away with a suction force. At this moment, a tyrannical aura came from behind. Turning his head to look, he saw that it was Xue Zhongbao lurking behind Su Yu's back, launching a fatal sneak attack while he was collecting the divine thunder pearl. "Kid, you still don't know, right? This is your grave." Having learned his lesson, Xue Zhongbao did not use the meteor hammer again. Instead, he relied on his superior physical strength to deal a fatal blow to Su Yu. Su Yu revealed a faint smile. "What a coincidence! I think so too." As soon as he finished speaking, he twisted his body, and his entire body transformed into a black dragon that was 200 zhang long, and he charged forward. Puff! Caught off guard, Xue Zhongbao was sent flying by the black dragon. He spat out a mouthful of blood and half of his body was crushed. His heart was overwhelmed with shock. The last time they fought, Su Yu did not have this kind of power. After a day, he had become so terrifying. Run! Xue Zhongbao was a man who was meticulous even though he was rough. He was not always reckless. The moment they clashed, Xue Zhongbao knew that he was the one who fell into the trap. As he fled, his broken body frantically healed, and in 2 to 3 breaths, he had recovered by more than half. At the same time, he swam quickly to the surface of the lake. As long as Prince Yun saw him, Su Yu would not dare to do anything to him. However, just as he was about to leap out of the water, a black shadow blocked his head, and a huge dragon claw slammed down. Bang! Xue Zhongbao fell back into the water. His heart sank and he raised his head and shouted, "Su Yu, this is just a spar. Are you trying to kill me? Learn from each other?" Su Yu laughed mischievously. Xue Zhongbao was frightened by this smile. He hurriedly said, just now, it was just a slip of the tongue. I was just angry about that day and wanted to teach you a lesson. I didn't mean anything else. After all, Princess Chuxue is here. How would I dare to kill you? I swear, this is really just a spar." In order to survive, Xue Zhongbao couldn't care less about his dignity. However, the hatred in his heart had increased exponentially. Once he went up, he would kill Su Yu immediately. Su Yu had hidden his strength too well. "All right, I believe you are just trying to learn from each other," Su Yu said after thinking for a moment. Xue Zhongbao secretly heaved a sigh of relief and sighed. "You will pay a heavy price for your naivety." However, the next moment, Su Yu said, "However, you can learn from each other, and I will kill mine. There is no conflict between us." As he spoke, a dragon claw slammed down and Xue Zhongbao's body, which had yet to recover, was on the verge of collapse. Xue Zhongbao was shocked. "Ah! Su Yu, you dare to kill me?" Su Yu's dragon eyes were indifferent, like a real dragon looking down on the common people. He said placidly, "You are wrong. What I want to kill is not you, but all of you." Bang! The dragon claw pressed down hard, and Xue Zhongbao's body was torn apart. A pure soul escaped from the physical body and fled out of the lake in fear. Originally, with the speed of the soul traversing the void, it could have escaped to Prince Yun's side by teleportation. Unfortunately, the dragon's might in the lake limited its speed, making it even slower than its body. Su Yu returned to his human form and smiled faintly. A crack appeared between his brows. "Soul Devourer!" Creak! Xue Zhongbao's soul, filled with terror and remorse, was completely devoured by Su Yu, becoming a tonic that nourished Su Yu's soul energy. This was the soul of a level 5 peak deity. Even if he could only absorb 1/10 of its essence, it was still a great tonic for Su Yu. Su Yu's soul energy increased tremendously, and he broke through to level 5. Once again gaining powerful soul energy, Su Yu's senses were even more astonishing. He could even vaguely capture the source of the gaze that was watching him. As if sensing that he had been exposed, the owner of the gaze stopped monitoring him immediately. Haha, I'll settle the score with you soon. Suyu snorted coldly. Without the feeling of being watched, he felt much more relaxed. After getting rid of Shuizhongbao, Suyu found the true sky flute of heavenly melody without much effort. After caressing it, a soft flute tune drifted out of the hole. When it entered his ears, Suyu's entire soul trembled slightly, as if it had been baptized. It was extremely comfortable. Suyu was secretly surprised. This is a good thing indeed. If the leak sound of the flute is already so powerful, when it is actually played, it indeed has the power to break through all sound wave cultivation technique. It is also entirely possible to restrain the waves of sorcery energy. Prince Yun has really given me a great gift. In the outside world, Yongye Chushue and the princes and princesses of the Shui nation stood by the lake, paying close attention to the changes in the lake. Soon after, muffled sounds came from the lake, and the water became murky. They knew then that a fight had taken place under the water. As for the outcome of the fight, the princes of the Shui nation secretly sneered. From time to time, they glanced at Yongye Chushue, who was all alone, with fiery looks on their faces. Soon, she would become their plaything. However, they were slightly puzzled by the fact that a few breaths before the end of the fight, a pitch-black shadow of a dragon vaguely appeared on the surface of the lake. It disappeared in a flash, and many of the princes and princesses thought it was just an illusion. Fortunately, the commotion soon subsided. They believed that Shuizhongbao had finished off Suyu completely. Prince Yun put on a fake smile and said, "Princess Chushue, although this is just a friendly match, the lake is dangerous after all. If your friend doesn't make it to the surface, please restrain your grief." Yongye Chushue looked calm, but deep down she was extremely nervous. She could easily guess what the commotion was about. In terms of the strength of both sides, the possibility of Suyu being killed was as high as 99%. Splash! All of a sudden, the sound of water splashing was heard. The princes and princesses were overjoyed. It was over. However, when they saw who appeared on the surface of the water, all the princes and princesses were stunned. On the other hand, Yongye Chushue heaved a huge sigh of relief. She loosened her clenched fists, which were soaked with sweat. Exhausted, Suyu swam ashore. Yongye Chushue helped him up, and she immediately channeled divine energy into him to restore his strength. Prince Yun's eyes turned cold. "Why did you come up first?" Suyu's face was pale as he asked him, "How can you be so sure that Shuizhongbao came up first?" Prince Yun hesitated. Of course, he knew that Shuizhongbao would kill Suyu at the bottom of the lake, but he couldn't say that out loud. With a snort, he asked, "Where is Shuizhongbao?" Suyu said, "You ask me? Who am I supposed to ask?" Prince Yun's murderous intentions were surging, and he was about to lose control. "Brother Yun, don't worry. If he could come up, how could Brother Shui?" a princess said. The rest of the princes and princesses were relieved as well, thinking that Shuizhongbao must have been careless and let him escape. He might still be looking for Suyu at the bottom of the lake. Among them, only Shui Xiaoman had reservations. She stared at Suyu, feeling an ominous feeling in her heart. Perhaps Shuizhongbao would never come up. 10 minutes had passed, and the lake was calm. Half an hour had passed, and there was still no movement in the lake. 2 hours had passed, and the faces of the princes and princesses finally changed. Even if Shuizhongbao was still looking for Suyu, 2 hours had passed, and he should have shown himself. The longer Prince Yun waited, the more he felt that something was wrong. He looked at Suyu coldly. "Why hasn't he come up yet?" Suyu shrugged. "You have to ask him. Maybe he has fallen asleep at the bottom of the lake?" Boom! Prince Yun unleashed his aura, stirring up a cloud of dust. Yongye Chushue said placidly, "What is Prince Yun doing? Killing someone?" Prince Yun looked at her coldly and gradually withdrew his aura. He said, I just want to know what happened at the bottom of the lake just now and what caused such a huge commotion. Upon hearing that, Suyu looked bewildered. I don't know. I was startled by the huge commotion, and that's why I swam back. You're lying. That commotion was clearly, Prince Yun said coldly. Suyu's eyes were calm. What was that commotion? Please tell me, Prince Yun. Prince Yun was speechless. Was he supposed to tell Suyu that it was Shuizhongbao who was attacking him? Nothing. That commotion could have been caused by some strange beast at the bottom of the lake. Prince Yun's tone was indescribably gloomy. Give me a moment. Prince Yun waited for another half an hour, but to no avail. He entered the water himself. After half a cup of tea's time, accompanied by a soft splash, Prince Yun returned, dripping wet. His long, wet hair covered most of his face, making him look even more somber. In his hand, he held half of Shuizhongbao's corpse. The hideous wounds caused by the sharp claws were clearly visible. Ah, Brother Shuizhongbao. What killed Brother Shuizhongbao? Who did it? It's Suyu, it must be Suyu. Shuizhongbao's death caused an uproar among the princes and princesses. Suyu glanced at them calmly and said indifferently, Everyone, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Do you have any proof that I did it? The princes and princesses stared at Suyu with hatred, their murderous intents flickering. Haha, you're so sure that I'm the murderer, as if you knew that I would definitely fight Shuizhongbao. Could it be that you're all gods who can predict the future? As soon as he said that, the princes and princesses immediately hid their strange expressions and avoided Suyu's gaze. Look at the wound, it's obvious that it was caused by the strange beast in the lake. You're going to blame it on me, aren't you? Suyu asked coldly. Hence, the princes and princesses dared not look Suyu in the eye. However, the anger in their hearts burned even more fiercely. Suyu was the one who killed Shuizhongbao, yet he questioned them with such confidence that they couldn't doubt him. This feeling of grievance was completely different from what they had imagined. Suyu. At that moment, Prince Yun spoke, his voice extremely somber. Where is my emperor-based saint artifact, the true sky flute of heavenly melody? Chapter 1365. Of course it's in my hands. Suyu did not deny it. With a flip of his palm, the true sky flute of heavenly melody appeared in his palm. Prince Yun's pupils constricted slightly. He wanted to speak but stopped on second thought. Suyu said calmly, I have to remind Prince Yun that according to the rules you set, the true sky flute of heavenly melody belongs to whoever finds it. Now it's mine. Please change your tone, Prince Yun. It's not yours, it's mine. The princes and princesses were furious. Now that they thought about it, it was all Suyu's plot. He had concealed his strength and made them lower their guard. Prince Yun had carelessly used his most important true sky flute of heavenly melody as a wager. Not only had Shuizhongbao been harmed, but the precious emperor-based saint artifact had also become Suyu's. What made them feel even more indignant was that they knew the truth but could not bring it up. Prince Yun stared at Suyu, his eyes flickering. Finally, he calmed down. I'm a man of my word. Since you retrieved it from the bottom of the lake, it's naturally yours. Upon hearing that, Yongye Chushue, who had been keeping her guard up, heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she did not make things difficult for him. At least, now was not the time. We are saddened by Shuizhongbao's accident. My condolences, everyone, Yongye Chushue said expressionlessly. Prince Yun forced a smile and nodded stiffly. His death will not affect our banquet. Princess and Suyu, please take a seat. Under his guidance, they came to the center of the island. 20 tree stumps of the same size surrounded a broken 1,000-year-old tomb, several meters in diameter. The cross-section was smooth, just the right size for a table. At the moment, the ancient tomb table was filled with various spiritual fruits and drink. The spiritual energy was rich, and they were obviously valuable treasures. Prince Yun invited them to take a seat while he sat at the head of the table, acting as the host for the day. Xue Xiaoman sat down as well. Looking at Su Yu, who looked calm and composed, she felt increasingly uneasy. After a moment of hesitation, she said telepathically, "Brother Yun, Su Yu has the violet gold rings of Yin Yang, the divine feather of frost, and the peacock plume. He is not easy to deal with. I think Xue Zhongbao died because of this. There is no need to continue the banquet. Let's strike now and eliminate him with everyone's strength." Prince Yun's expression was calm, but he responded secretly. He snorted. "Do you think I'm trying to kill you? Isn't it because you lost your precious treasure? If we clash head-on, what if he destroys the treasure?" Among the 3 lost treasures, one of them was an emperor-based saint artifact. It was meant for Prince Yun's use, but Prince Yun reluctantly lent it to her after Xue Xiaoman pleaded for it. Who would have thought that it would be snatched away? Even now, the matter of it being lost was still hidden from the royal family. If the royal family found out about it, neither he nor Xue Xiaoman would have a good time. They were worried that Su Yu would destroy or abandon the item if they were to confront him head-on. Hence, they had chosen to assassinate him. Xue Xiaoman lowered her head in shame. Su Yu caught this scene out of the corner of his eye, and an obscure smile flashed across the corners of his mouth. Prince Yun looked at Yongye Chushue with a smile. These 21 divine trees are called the soul-reaching wood, which is somewhat related to the soul-stabilizing wood. They can absorb the souls of the world to nourish themselves. Every 10 years, these tree stumps will brew sweet and mellow fairy wine, which contains rich energy. After drinking it, it has an extraordinary effect on nourishing the soul. Ordinary people will be dead drunk after drinking a drop of it. That's how the Woods of Drunken Immortals got its name. Yongye Chushue nodded slightly. These 21 soul-reaching wood were very famous in the Empire of Darkness. The fairy wine brewed from them was also a rare brew in the world. Even the Empire of Darkness received no more than 10 drops of it as a tribute every year, and all of them were enjoyed by the monarch alone. In all these years, Yongye Chushue had only taken the diluted spiritual liquid once. The nourishing effect on the soul was indeed amazing. However, just as Prince Yun had said, the wine was extremely intoxicating. Back then, she couldn't withstand a drop of the fairy wine that was diluted to 1/10, and she fell into a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. Rumor had it that even Yongye Zhiyang didn't dare to drink too much. 1 drop at a time was the upper limit. However, what the world doesn't know is that the most delicious fairy wine isn't the ones on the market, but the ones hidden in the soul-reaching wood. Prince Yun said with a mysterious smile. The rest of the princes and princesses licked their tongues, looking very eager. If they hadn't taken advantage of the Woods of Drunken Immortals today, it would have been extremely difficult for them to taste the wine. Princess Yongye, Su Yu, as the saying goes, it's better to come at the right time than to come early. The fairy wine is only collected once every 10 years. You can't taste the extracted wine, but you can drink the original fairy wine. With a wave of Prince Yun's hand, 21 thin metal tubes appeared on the table, neatly arranged in front of the 21 people. Each tube was crafted from the materials of the soul-reaching wood. Everyone, time waits for no man. Let's start drinking, Prince Yun said with a smile. He picked up the thin tube in front of him and inserted it into the 1,000-year-old wooden table. A strange scene ensued. The thin tube came into contact with the table, and layers of tiny roots extended from the bottom of the tube, connecting with the table as one. Then, with the thin tube in the corner of Prince Yun's mouth, he sucked gently. From the roots inside the table, layers of viscous emerald crystalline spiritual liquid flowed out and was sucked into Prince Yun's mouth along the thin tube. A strange fragrance leaked out. The fragrance was intoxicating, soothing one's soul and mind. When the rest of the princes and princesses saw it, they couldn't hold back their hunger and thirst. One after another, they followed suit and drank the original fairy wine from the tree stump. In an instant, more than 20 streams of fairy wine overflowed, and the intoxicating fragrance filled the entire island. Even without tasting it himself, Su Yu could feel the enhancement of his soul just by smelling the lingering fragrance of the wine in the air. The spiritual liquid of the soul-reaching wood was indeed extraordinary. Su Yu's eyes were filled with interest, but he had no intention of giving it a try. Yongye Chushua looked at Su Yu, secretly admiring him. She said, "The fairy wine on the market must have evaporated in the process of extraction, so its effect is far inferior to the original fairy wine. Even so, the fairy wine on the market can make one sleep for 10 days and 10 nights with just one sip. You can imagine the effect of this original fairy wine. Don't be fooled by their ease of drinking, they must have been prepared to dissolve the alcohol in the fairy wine. You were right not to follow them." As she spoke, Yongye Chushua took out 2 pitch-black pills from her sleeves and handed one to Su Yu. "Keep it in your mouth to absorb the alcohol in the fairy wine. This way, you won't be affected when you swallow it." She was indeed well prepared. Su Yu took it, put it in his mouth, and tried to take a sip. A cool and refreshing feeling filled his mouth, but his soul had already fallen into an ethereal state. Su Yu had devoured souls 3 times, and his soul had grown too rapidly, causing it to be incompatible with his physical body. Under the nourishment of this spiritual liquid, Su Yu's soul quickly fused with his body, eliminating the traces of hidden dangers without a trace. Su Yu was secretly delighted. This trip had not been in vain. However, as Yongye Chushua had said, although the fairy wine was good, its intoxicating power was not just for show. After a short while, Su Yu felt dizzy and lightheaded. "What a strong intoxicating power!" Su Yu exclaimed. Even though he had taken the elixir, it still had such an effect. "Wait, something's wrong." Su Yu suddenly realized that something was amiss before he lost consciousness. Yongye Chushua had also drunk the spiritual liquid, but she looked normal and did not seem to be drunk at all. She had also taken the elixir, but why was there such a big difference? His eyes flickered, and he quietly glanced at the rest of the people present. The dozen princes seemed to be enjoying the elixir, but under Su Yu's transparent eye, he could clearly see that there was nothing in their tubes. Only he and Yongye Chushua were drinking. What made Su Yu's pupils shrink slightly was that in the veins under the tree stump, besides the turquoise spiritual liquid, there was also a faint golden liquid. It was odorless and odorless, mixed in with the turquoise liquid, and was impossible to detect. Something was wrong. Su Yu pretended to be still drinking, secretly observing everyone's actions. Soon, Su Yu's eyes flashed, and he found that there was a trace of golden powder left in Prince Yun's palm. Seeing this, Su Yu sneered. Did they add this intoxicating substance into the spiritual liquid and let Su Yu absorb it without noticing, and then pass out on the spot? Moreover, it seemed that they had discussed it in advance. Once Su Yu started drinking, they would stop at the same time, to prevent themselves from drinking the golden liquid by mistake. Su Yu found it funny as he looked at them pretending to be enjoying themselves, as well as their drunken looks. "All right, since you like to pretend, I'll give you a little surprise." Su Yu chuckled inwardly, but his face revealed that he was slightly drunk. He wiped his mouth and laughed foolishly. "This is really good wine. I have never tasted such good wine in my life. I must drink another mouthful." When he finished, he lowered his head and sucked on the thin tube. However, this time, he did not drink it. Instead, he spat some liquid into the tube. The liquid entered the tree stump and quickly flowed along the veins, covering the entire interior of the tree stump. The princes and princesses, who did not know what was going on, exchanged cold glances. After absorbing so much golden liquid, Su Yu was almost done. The corners of Prince Yun's mouth curled into an imperceptible sneer. "Haha, since Brother Su likes it, you might as well have a few more sips. After today, it won't be so easy to drink again," Prince Yun said with a double meaning. Su Yu's face was already showing signs of drunkenness, and his eyes were starting to lose focus. He was quite drunk, and it was only a matter of time before he fell asleep. He shouted drunkenly, Let's rest for a while before we drink. You can go first. Prince Yun said with a smile, Brother Su, you are a guest. How can we drink when you haven't had a good drink? In his drunken state, Su Yu had some doubts. Why do you have to wait until I drink? Is there something wrong with the wine? The princes and princesses were all shocked when they were exposed in a single sentence. Prince Yun's expression remained unchanged. He smiled faintly. In that case, let's all drink and enjoy ourselves. As he spoke, he stroked the underside of the table with his palm. The golden liquid contained in the veins was all withdrawn. The rest of the princes and princesses received a signal from Prince Yun to confirm that the spiritual liquid was safe. Only then did they drink with relief. Yongye Chushua took a sip and could not help but lower her head to drink. Chapter 1366. Yongye Chushua's cheeks flushed with anger. She glared at Su Yu, as if to ask why he was touching her leg. Su Yu pretended to be drunk, but the way he looked at Yongye Chushua was exceptionally clear. Her eyes darted from side to side. Yongye Chushua was intelligent, and she finally understood what Su Yu meant. There was something wrong with the wine, and she immediately raised her head. Princess, are you not going to drink any more? Prince Yun was suspicious. Yongye Chushua rubbed her forehead and smiled bitterly. The fairy wine deserves its reputation. I'm a little tipsy after just one sip. Prince Yun was slightly puzzled. He had only poisoned Su Yu. How could Yongye Chushua be poisoned as well? Could it be that the golden liquid was not controlled properly, and part of it flowed towards Yongye Chushua? However, this was a small problem, as long as Su Yu was poisoned. Haha, in that case, Princess, please take a break, Prince Yun said with a faint smile. He seized the time to drink a few mouthfuls of the non-poisonous liquid. Yongye Chushua smiled stiffly. She put down her right hand, grabbed Su Yu's hand on her thigh, and threw it away as if she had been electrocuted. She glared at Su Yu viciously from the corner of her eye. Su Yu smiled, the faint fragrance of her thigh lingering in his palm. He could not help but recall the beautiful, jade-like body in the lake of the 7 poisons demonic toad's venom, and his mind swayed. The thought only flashed past his mind, and Su Yu suppressed his feelings. He was secretly ashamed. Drinking is bad for one's health. Brother Su, why don't you have a few more sips? Prince Yun stopped drinking and said. The rest of the princes and princesses seemed to be savoring the wine as if nothing had happened, but in fact, they had all stopped and were pretending to enjoy it. Su Yu glanced with his transparent eye. The golden liquid in the tree stump was more than 3 times more than before. They were preparing to get Su Yu drunk in one go. Haha, alright, I'll take a few more sips. I hope Prince Yun won't feel bad about it. I've always been a good drinker. Su Yu belched. Although Prince Yun felt bad about the fairy wine, how much more could a drunk man drink? Ha ha ha, Brother Su, what are you talking about? I invited you here today to drink to your heart's content. Why would I worry about you drinking too much? Drink as much as you want. Su Yu praised, straightforward. Then this Su won't stand on ceremony. As he spoke, Su Yu put the thin tube in his mouth and started sucking it happily. At the same time, he placed his right palm under the table and placed it on his chest. The spiritual liquid that Su Yu had just absorbed was sucked out of his body by the Milky Way fine sand before it could fuse with his limbs and bones. The golden liquid was completely removed, leaving behind a pure emerald green liquid. Su Yu then guided it into a giant jade plate that was as big as a washbasin. Yongye Chushua was worried about Su Yu. When she looked over, her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She was not surprised that Su Yu could separate the spiritual liquid. Instead, she was surprised that Su Yu had prepared such a big vessel. Was he planning to take all the spiritual liquid in the forest of drunken immortals for 10 years? Yongye Chushua took a few deep breaths and pretended that nothing had happened. However, she kept glancing at the fairy wine that was gradually hiding out of the corner of her eyes. Her eyes were burning, and she thought to herself, will this guy share some with me? Tempering my soul will be very beneficial for me when I try to break through to level 2 deity. No, I'm going to confiscate them all later. Who asked me to be a princess? Watching Su Yu take a few sips, Prince Yun and the others still had smiles on their faces. However, after half an incense stick's worth of time, Su Yu was still inhaling, and there was no sign of him fainting. The smiles on their faces were gone. Why hasn't this guy fainted yet? He has taken so much. Even if he has the antidote, he should be reaching his limit, right? Prince Yun was a little distressed. Although the princes and princesses could hold a banquet in the forest of drunken immortals, there was a limit to the amount of fairy wine they could take in. If they took too much, they would be severely punished by their father. Prince Yun restrained his emotions and comforted them. Don't get too worked up, it should be soon. However, a whole incense stick's worth of time had passed, and Su Yu was still inhaling. The faces of all the princes and princesses fell. Even Prince Yun's expression was extremely unpleasant. What the hell is going on? Even if the poison hasn't taken effect, the emperors of the 4 great empires would not be able to take in the fairy wine alone. They would probably be drunk on the ground. Why does he look perfectly fine? He has taken almost 30% already, hasn't he? If he continues, he will be sucked dry. Prince Yun smiled stiffly. Brother Su, slow down. Drinking too much is bad for your health. Unexpectedly, Yongye Chushue, who had her mind set on sharing the spoils, said, Prince Yun said just now that he could drink as much as he wanted, didn't he? Prince Yun smiled sheepishly. I was just reminding him not to drink too fast. Gurgle. As soon as he mentioned it, Su Yu's rate of absorption suddenly sped up several times, and the liquid in the tree stump gurgled. The princes and princesses were as anxious as monkeys whose buttocks were on fire. They were anxious but did not dare to make a sound. All they could do was watch as the spiritual liquid in the tree stump was sucked away. However, as Su Yu's face grew redder and redder, and he looked like he was about to faint, they decided to hold it in. They held it in for another half an incense stick's worth of time. Sizzle! Finally, the sound of the tree stump being sucked dry could be heard. The last drop of fairy wine spiritual liquid was sucked into Su Yu's stomach. To the prince's and princess's astonishment, Su Yu, who had drunk an enormous amount of fairy wine, did not faint even though his face was flushed and he could not even sit properly. In all the years that the northern Shui nation had been in charge of the soul-reaching wood, this was the first time they had encountered such a bizarre incident. A person who had drunk 10 years' worth of fairy wine did not faint. Patting his belly, Su Yu burped and said drunkenly, good wine, good wine." At the same time, he put away the basin-sized utensil without batting an eyelid. Prince Yun and the others were so focused on Su Yu that they did not notice that the real fairy wine had been moved away by Su Yu. Is there any more? I want to drink, I want to drink. Su Yu muttered a few words, and finally closed his eyes and fainted. The princes and princesses' faces did not look any better after Su Yu fainted. If this was the price they had to pay, wasn't the price too high? How were they going to explain this to their father after drinking fairy wine for 10 years? Just thinking about it made them want to commit suicide. How did things turn out this way? However, no matter what, Su Yu had fainted, and there was no longer any suspense about the safe retrieval of the Emperor-based Saint artifact. They could rest assured. The princes and princesses, who had been suppressed for a long time, gradually revealed the viciousness of revenge. Several of the princes no longer concealed their greedy eyes. They stared at Yongye Chushue's graceful figure, their eyes burning with passion. Yongye Chushue raised her brows and scolded, "How dare you?" However, having been exposed, they no longer had the slightest scruple. "You are the one who is presumptuous." Prince Yun's gentleness and elegance disappeared, replaced by anger. The aura of a level 4 martial artist was no longer concealed. It was released completely, enveloping Yongye Chushue. Yongye Chushue's pretty face was cold. She slammed her palm on the table and bellowed coldly, Are you trying to rebel? Prince Yun put on a fake smile. Congratulations, you are right. What? Despite Su Yu's speculation, Yongye Chushue was still shocked to hear the other party admit it. She said angrily, "The royal family of Yongye has always been generous to you. When have we ever mistreated you? Why are you rebelling? I don't believe it. Let the king of the northern Shui nation say it to his face." Looking at Yongye Chushue's panic-stricken face, Prince Yun finally vented all the grievances he had suffered that night. He sneered coldly. "You want to see my father? Sure. I will take your head and let you ask him in person." Since things had come to this, Yongye Chushue let go of her last shred of hope. Everything was as Su Yu had predicted. The northern Shui nation was going to rebel. Tonight's banquet at the Woods of Drunken Immortals was a historic event. They would use her head and her blood to announce that the northern Shui nation would leave the Empire of Darkness and join the heaven-defying empire from now on. She closed her eyes gently. When she opened them again, Yongye Chushue's eyes were cold and solemn, as if they were covered with ice and snow. "Everyone has the right to punish the rebels." Yongye Chushue took out a short sword engraved with inscriptions from her sleeve, exuding a shocking deterrent force. Prince Yun was a little fearful. The 38th Emperor-based Saint artifact, the heavenly pattern dragon sword. It is said that it was forged from the horn of a divine dragon comparable to the 9 emperors. Its power is amazing. Yongye Chushue held the dragon sword in her hand, her murderous intent rising. "You didn't expect this, did you? This sword has been secretly in my hands for a long time. I don't think you would have guessed that I have known your purpose all along. I came to the banquet tonight to give you one last chance." Unexpectedly, Prince Yun smiled sinisterly. "No. I knew it. That's why I have prepared another gift for you. Palm of the Great Buddha." All of a sudden, an angry bellow came from the sky above the Woods of Drunken Immortals. A ferocious-looking monk, clad in a kasaya and wearing a skull necklace around his neck, was bathed in a golden Buddha's light. He weaved a seal with his left hand and formed a palm with his right hand. The surging Buddha's light formed a huge palm print, which smashed down. The power of this palm print was at the level of a level 4 deity, comparable to that of Prince Yun. The only difference was that the ferocious monk's attack was a sneak attack, which Yongye Chushue could hardly guard against. Yongye Chushue was shocked. The Grand State Master of the Northern Shui Nation, Azura? In the blink of an eye, Yongye Chushue raised the heavenly pattern dragon sword and thrust it down. Heavenly pattern dragon. Roar. There seemed to be a dragon's roar piercing through the sky. A beam of pure divine light rushed out of the heavenly pattern dragon's sword and shattered the incoming palm print of Buddha's light. However, before the attack was completed, Prince Yun's eyes flashed, and he arrived as fast as lightning. His palms, which were as heavy as mountains, hit Yongye Chushue's abdomen. Puff! Under the tremendous force, Yongye Chushue spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backward. Yongye Chushue's body was severely injured after the consecutive sneak attacks. "Take another blow from me." In the sky, Azura's face was ferocious. He launched another palm of the great Buddha. Prince Yun sneered. "Don't kill her, State Master. My brothers are all waiting to enjoy Princess Chushue's noble body." Chapter 1367. However, just as the Buddha light palm print was about to land, Yongye Chushue's eyes turned cold, and a dark gray vortex appeared in her abdomen. "Seal open!" Whoosh! The vortex spun abruptly and turned into countless gray auras, rushing around her body. This was the sign of the sorcery power spreading. However, at the same time, a terrifying divine power erupted from his abdomen. It was extremely terrifying. The Azura, who was about to attack, suddenly changed its expression and said in horror, "A level 3 deity." Yongye Chushue smiled coldly. "You don't know this, do you?" After she finished speaking, her fair palm casually slapped upwards. Boom! In an instant, heaven and earth roared, and the Buddha light flew backward. The Azura seemed to have suffered an endless bombardment. Its body cracked and was about to collapse. It flew backward out of the woods of drunken immortals and fell into the lake. Prince Yun's sinister smile froze like frost. Without thinking, he turned around and fled. Yongye Chushua said mockingly, "I came to the banquet today to give you a chance. Unfortunately, you don't know how to behave yourself. In that case, I have no choice but to kill you all." With a flick of her finger, a terrible divine power pierced through the void and shattered half of Prince Yun's body. Prince Yun was horrified. Who would have thought that Yongye Chushua, who kept a low profile in the royal family, was actually a level 3 deity? This was a level comparable to that of the saints of the Moonwatch sect. In the face of a level 3 deity, Prince Yun had no chance of escaping. However, just as Yongye Chushua was about to give him a fatal blow, an angry roar came from the sky, accompanied by unparalleled majesty. "Who dares to hurt my son?" Yongye Chushua smiled coldly. "The monarch of the northern Shui nation? Just in time. I will get rid of the traitors for my father." After saying that, she flew upward with the dragon's sword in her hand and fought with the imposing figure in the sky. There was a deafening explosion, and the sky and earth trembled. The lake surged wildly. The battle between the two almost destroyed the imperial palace of the northern Shui nation. After 5 minutes, accompanied by a miserable groan, a beautiful figure fell from the clouds into the woods of drunken immortals. Immediately, a middle-aged man in a purple robe with blue hair descended. He put his hands behind his back and looked coldly at Yongye Chushua, who was lying on the ground. Yongye Chushua had suffered many fatal injuries. Most importantly, her whole body was filled with sorcery power. She looked like she was about to die. Prince Yun rushed back from the brink of death. He was furious. This Yongye Chushua has hidden herself too well. The world only knows that her brother is a genius of the age. I didn't expect her to be the real genius. If it weren't for father, we would be the ones dying today. The monarch of the Shui nation in the northern region said coldly, "So what? The destruction of the Empire of Darkness is inevitable. Her death is just the beginning." When he finished, he was about to kill her, but Prince Yun stopped him. "Father, please wait. Why don't you let us handle her?" The monarch of the Shui nation of the Northern Territory glanced at Yongye Chushua and nodded slightly. "Fine. I don't want to stain my hands with the blood of the royal family of the Eternal Night. But all of you have to be careful, there's an extremely formidable shaman energy existing within her body, and it has already exploded out to every corner of her body. If it were to be accidentally transmitted into your bodies, then even though you wouldn't have to wait for death like her, your cultivation in this lifetime would come to an end here." When he finished, the monarch of the Shui nation of the Northern Territory took to the air and returned to his bedchamber. As soon as he entered, his face suddenly turned pale. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with lingering fear. "It's too terrifying. If it weren't for the eruption of sorcery power in her body and the serious injury she inflicted, I might have been the one who died today. If she were at her peak, I don't think anyone in the level 3 realm would be a match for her." The princes and princesses, who were completely unaware of this, gathered around after a moment of shock. Looking at Yongye Chushua, who had fallen into a semi-conscious state and had lost her ability to resist, the prince's eyes gleamed like wild beasts. "This woman wants to massacre us? Humph, if we don't punish her properly, how will she know how powerful we are?" A prince who was eager to make a move said with a smirk. After swallowing an elixir, Prince Yun's battered body had mostly recovered. With a smug, hideous grin, he said, "How about it, Princess Chushua? In the end, you still can't escape the fate we have set for you, can you? Not only will we use your blood to record the historical decline of the Empire of Darkness, but you will also serve my brothers well before you die." Perhaps she had sensed it. The semi-conscious Yongye Chushua raised the heaven-striped dragon sword and stabbed it at her heart. Prince Yun reached out and grabbed the heaven-striped dragon sword with ease. He said with a smile, "I can't let you go just like that. You haven't given my brothers enough pleasure yet. I'll keep this Emperor-based Saint artifact for you." Speaking of Emperor-based Saint artifacts, Prince Yun had to worry about his true void flute of heavenly melody. He said, "I'll leave the princess to you." When he finished, he walked towards Suyu. Shui Xiaoman was already standing beside Suyu. Her eyes were filled with complex emotions. She wanted to kill him, but she hesitated. "Xiaoman, why don't you do it?" Prince Yun asked with a frown. Shui Xiaoman whipped out a sharp blade but hesitated. She said, "I think he is innocent. We can just kill Yongye Chushue. There's no need to implicate the innocent." As soon as the words left her mouth, even Shui Xiaoman could not understand herself. Logically, she should be itching to kill him. Why would she plead on his behalf? Innocent. Prince Yun was enraged. Stealing the Emperor-based Saint artifact of the Shui nation of the Northern Territory is a heinous crime. How dare you say he is innocent? Kill him, right now. Prince Yun said forcefully. Shui Xiaoman struggled. Her rational mind told her that she should do so, but there seemed to be some resistance in her heart. In her opinion, it was her own incompetence that had caused the loss of the treasure. As for Su Yu's murder of Shui Zhongbao today, Su Yu was indeed guilty. However, when had they invited Su Yu here ever been kind? After a moment of hesitation, Shui Xiaoman gritted her teeth and put down the sharp blade abruptly. She turned and walked away. "I can't do it. Brother Yun, you do it." She looked afar at the group of princes who were stripping off their clothes in excitement. A glint of disappointment flashed across her eyes. She lowered her head and walked to the lakeside alone. Prince Yun looked at her suspiciously, then fixed his eyes on Su Yu again. His murderous intent was ferocious. "You little B*****starred. You caused me so much trouble, stole my true sky flute of heavenly melody, and swallowed all the fairy wine before you died. Even 1,000 deaths can't atone for your sins." Prince Yun circulated the divine energy in his palm. Looking at Su Yu's drunken, unconscious state, he sneered. "The fairy wine must be delicious. You're still thinking about it, aren't you? Sending you off like this is too easy for you." As soon as he finished speaking, his palm struck. However, right at that moment, a shocking scene unfolded before Prince Yun's eyes. Su Yu opened his eyes abruptly and smiled faintly. "The fairy wine is delicious. Thank you for your care." Prince Yun was taken aback. "You're not unconscious?" As he spoke, he pressed his palm against Su Yu's chest. However, a considerable divine energy gushed out of Su Yu's abdomen and was instilled into the ice-blue divine armor on the surface of his body. The ice-blue divine armor was completely activated, and it emitted a majestic azure icy light. Prince Yun's palm, which was imbued with divine energy, landed on the icy light and was met with great resistance. Moreover, the divine energy was constantly being absorbed, gradually weakening. Seizing the opportunity, Su Yu leaped up like a carp. The scene alarmed the rest of the princes and princesses. Amidst their shock, they all rushed over and surrounded Su Yu. Prince Yun was shocked, but his anger did not diminish in the slightest. "You drank so much fairy wine and my poison, and yet you're completely fine." Su Yu sneered. "What's the big deal about a little poison? I'll be fine no matter how much I drink. However, it's within my expectations that you can hold on for so long after drinking my poison. I suppose the fairy wine has some counteracting effect." Upon hearing that, everyone was taken aback. You poisoned the wooden stakes?" Prince Yun was shocked, but he said calmly, "Don't panic, everyone." He might be exaggerating. Perhaps in response to Su Yu's words, one of the princes turned pale, and a putrid, pitch-black liquid oozed out of his pores. He said, "Brother Yun, it might be true. I've been feeling a little uncomfortable since just now, wah." As he spoke, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood, accompanied by a faint 7-colored liquid. This was the 7 poisons demonic toad's poison that Suyu had spat out into the wooden stakes. Even a level 2 deity's body would be severely corroded if they came into contact with it, let alone ingesting it. Wasn't that courting death? Suyu had the Milky Way silver sand, so he could expel the poison from his mouth at any time, but they obviously could not. Wah! Suddenly, another person's poison flared up. Blarg! A third person. My body is rotting. Brother Yun, save me. A fourth person. Soon, the poisons began to flare up, starting from those with low cultivation and high intake. There was no time to rescue them. They rotted and died from the inside out, and even their souls could not escape. If it was under normal circumstances, they would have noticed the poison in their bodies a long time ago. However, after drinking the immortal wine, they were more or less a bit tipsy, numbing the abnormalities in their bodies. This was why there was such a tragic scene of collective poisoning. Prince Yun watched his familiar brothers and sisters collapse one after another. His eyes were bloodshot, and he roared like a beast, "Hand over the antidote." Suyu folded his arms and said placidly, "What antidote do you want? Don't you want to write the glorious history of the northern Shui nation's separation from the Empire of Darkness with your blood? Use your own blood, and you might be able to go down in history and be admired by the future generations. Hand over the antidote, or I'll kill you." Prince Yun's features were ferocious as he bellowed. Suyu glanced at the princes and princesses lying on the ground and shrugged. "It's no use, they're all dead." "I'll kill you!" Prince Yun roared and lunged forward. Suyu dared not underestimate the attack of a level 4 deity. However, he was prepared. His eyes turned cold, and he bellowed in a low voice, "9 suns sword formation. 9 suns sword formation." Suyu bellowed. Sizzle! Sizzle! In an instant, 9 blinding golden suns appeared over the woods of drunken immortals, illuminating the entire woods of drunken immortals with a golden glow. Chapter 1368. How were those golden rays of sunlight? They were clearly tiny wisps of sword chi. Arg! Prince Yun howled in pain as cracks appeared on his skin. At that very moment, the 9 blazing suns suddenly vanished from the sky, turning into golden swords that pierced through Prince Yun's body. Not only were the 9 swords extremely fast, but they were also extremely sharp. The swords pierced through Prince Yun's body, turning him into a hornet's nest in the blink of an eye. His death was only a matter of time. In just a few breaths of time, he would be dead. However, at this moment, a majestic Buddhist light descended from the sky. Buddha's great sorrow palm. A huge palm imprint of Buddhist light interfered with the operation of the sword formation from the outside, causing it to pause for a moment. It was at this moment that a ferocious monk jumped in and grabbed Prince Yun out of the sword formation. When the Azura climbed out from the bottom of the lake, he happened to see the first prince in danger and immediately went to his aid. Buddha Pass Illumination. The Azura landed a palm on Prince Yun's back. The light of Buddha entered his body and had a mystical purification effect, purging the poison from Prince Yun's body. Without the influence of the deadly poison, Prince Yun quickly circulated his divine energy to heal his injuries. However, Suyu picked up Yongye Chushue and withdrew the 9 suns sword formation. Looking at the ground littered with the corpses of his royal brothers and sisters, and recalling the close brush with death, Prince Yun flew into a rage. "Su! Feather! You've wiped out an entire generation of the northern Shui nation's royal family. If you leave, how are we going to explain to the world?" Suyu smiled placidly. "That's easy. Announce to the world that you have used the blood of an entire generation of the royal family to write the glorious history of the Shui nation of the North Territory. Also, if I want to leave, you can't stop me." Rumble. Right at that moment, an extremely sharp aura, which was filled with boundless rage and murderous intents, suddenly descended and headed straight for Suyu. Suyu knew who it was without even looking. He laughed coldly and said, If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Once wasn't enough, so you want to do it a second time? Unfortunately, if I want to leave, you won't be able to stop me. Goodbye, Shwe Nation of the Northern Territory. What happened to you today is destined to become the most glorious event in history. After saying that, a Tai Chi pattern appeared above his head, covering him and Yongye Chushu. In an instant, yin and yang reversed, and heaven and earth turned upside down. The next moment, Su Yu teleported out of the northern Shwe Nation. The Shwe country of the North Territory could not even detect their aura, let alone chase after them. Rumble. A beam of sword energy bombarded the place where Su Yu had just stood, shattering half of the woods of drunken immortals. A purple-robed middle-aged man appeared there. His eyes were wide open, filled with boundless rage. Especially when he saw the cold corpses on the ground, he fell into an almost absent-minded rage. Speak. What was going on? Why are my children all dead? The monarch glared at Prince Yun and the Azura. This gaze caused them to feel as if they were struck by lightning, causing them to spit out blood and groan in pain. Especially Prince Yun, who felt like his body was about to collapse. He immediately begged for mercy. Father, please forgive me. It was Su Yu who poisoned the wine. The monarch was furious. I handed the matter over to you, but in the end, your brothers and sisters are all dead, and you are the only one alive. His voice was trembling. It was hard to tell if he was sad or too angry. All of a sudden, the monarch looked at the lakeside and saw a person standing there in a daze. It was Shwe Xiaoman. She was unscathed. She had not been poisoned, nor had she been harmed by the sword light of the Nine Suns sword formation. Prince Yun's eyes gleamed, and he said hurriedly, Father, Xiaoman, there's something wrong with her. We were all poisoned, but she was the only one unharmed. And that sword light, it clearly enveloped the entire woods of drunken immortals, but she was the only one unharmed. Besides, when I asked her to kill Su Yu, she insisted on refusing. The monarch narrowed his eyes and sucked Shwe Xiaoman toward him. He grabbed her by the neck and glared at her furiously like a wild beast. Give me an explanation, or else. He spat out word by word. Shwe Xiaoman was stunned. She struggled to pry open her father's palm and said, I don't know either. I only took the first sip of the wine, and I did not drink again after that, so I was not poisoned. How do you explain that the sword light did not harm you? Shwe Xiaoman stammered, unable to explain. The sword light was supposed to hurt her, but when it landed on her, it suddenly changed direction. How could she explain it? You can't explain it? Then let me ask you, why didn't you kill him? Shwe Xiaoman did not know that herself, so how could she explain it? The monarch's eyes were bloodshot, and he was furious. You wicked girl, I'll kill you. However, reason stopped the monarch. He bellowed, You don't have to stay in the Shwe Nation of the Northern Territory any longer. I'll contact the Heaven-Defying Empire right away and send you there to marry the eldest prince of the Heaven-Defying Empire as his concubine. Shwe Xiaoman looked aggrieved, but she could only endure it silently. The monarch looked at Prince Yun and Azura coldly. You too, you can be spared from death, but you can't escape punishment. I'll give you a chance to atone for your crimes by capturing them. Otherwise, you'll join them in hell. Prince Yun and Azura were submissive, not even daring to breathe loudly. After a pause, the monarch glared at Shwe Xiaoman and Prince Yun. Also, the emperor-based saint artifact was taken away by a mysterious strong man with a dragon's head and a human body. You have to give me an explanation. Upon hearing that, Prince Yun was slightly surprised. A dragon's head and a human body? Didn't Shwe Xiaoman say it was Su Yu who took it away? Shwe Xiaoman was also puzzled. A dragon's head and a human body? Su Yu was a demon? He didn't look like one, did he? The monarch's face fell. Is there a problem? Shwe Xiaoman voiced her doubts hesitantly. Father, it was Su Yu who took away the emperor-based saint artifact, not some demon with a dragon's head and a human body. The monarch was bewildered. Rolling his eyes, he said, "Oh? What other treasures did Su Yu take away from you? What magical powers did he master?" Xue Xiaoman said guiltily, "All the treasures I had were taken away, including the divine feather of frost and the peacock plume. The magical power he mastered was the sword formation just now, wasn't it?" "How is that possible?" the monarch exclaimed in shock. Seeing that, the three of them looked at each other in dismay. The monarch's eyes flickered, and finally, he glared at her angrily. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Xue Xiaoman looked innocent. "How could I, your daughter, tell you about such a shameful thing? We were thinking of finding the emperor-based saint artifact before telling you, father." Unexpectedly, the monarch said in exasperation, You wastrel! If you had told me earlier, we wouldn't have gotten the emperor-based saint artifact, but the remains of the ice and fire divine warrior." Prince Yun, the Azura, and Xue Xiaoman were all shocked. The monarch said, "Yesterday, the monarchs of the 4 great empires arrived secretly and had a secret conversation with me. They asked me about the whereabouts of the emperor-based saint artifact. I only found out that the violet gold yin-yang rings had been taken away by a demon with a dragon head and a human body." At this point, the monarch looked shocked. This demon was extremely powerful, able to contend with the world annihilation dragon alone. Not only that, but he had many treasures with him, which made the 4 monarchs extremely tempted. The Taiching divine warrior's yin-yang wings of supreme pole, the remains of the ice and fire divine warrior, and the eternal night divine warrior's 6 fundamental laws of mind control were all in his hands. Hearing that, the 3 of them gasped. They were shocked by the demon with a dragon head and a human body. But immediately they realized a problem. Xue Xiaoman said, "But what does the demon with a dragon head and a human body have to do with Su Yu?" The monarch sighed. "That demon with a dragon head and a human body is using the treasures you lost. Even the magical power of the 9 suns sword formation is unique. What do you think their relationship is?" Hearing that, the 3 of them froze on the spot. A guy with treasures that could shake the entire ancient god realm was sitting right in front of them? If they had known this, why would they have killed Yongye Chushue? They would have killed him regardless of the consequences. So, do you know what you missed just now? You missed the opportunity to build a great empire in the northern Xue nation. The yin-yang wings of supreme pole might not be much, and the 6 fundamental laws of mind control might not be much, but the remains of the ice and fire divine warrior were enough to forge a brand new empire. Such a great opportunity had slipped away right in front of their eyes. "Father, then we..." The monarch's eyes were burning. "Do you still need to say it? Capture Su Yu with all your might. Also, don't tell anyone about Su Yu's identity." At the border between the northern Xue nation and the heaven-defying empire, the yin and yang energies of heaven and earth were in disorder. A Tai Chi pattern suddenly flashed in the sky, and 2 figures fell from it. One was a handsome man in a white robe with silver hair, and the other was a beautiful woman with wounds all over her body. Although they had successfully left the northern Xue nation, Su Yu was not happy. This was because Yongye Chushue's injuries were extremely serious. The injuries inflicted by the monarch of the northern Xue nation were only superficial wounds, which could be healed by some high-level spiritual medicine. What was dangerous was the sorcery energy that erupted from her body. This sorcery energy is extraordinarily pure. It is a level higher than the sorcery energy of the Saint Lady. It should have been done by a level 2 wizard. In the Moonwatch sect, the only one who has reached level 2 is the Moonwatch sect leader, right? Su Yu thought to himself. Su Yu tried to expel the sorcery energy from her body with the sorcery magic that he had learned. Unexpectedly, not only did he fail to expel it, he almost suffered a backlash, and the terrible sorcery energy entered his body. In desperation, Su Yu used the Milky Way star sand. After a cup of tea's worth of time, he sucked out a strand of it, If there was enough time, it would not be a problem to heal the injury. The problem was that Yongye Chushue would not be able to hold on for such a long time. The outbreak of the sorcery energy was so fierce that the divine energy in Yongye Chushue's body was gone. Without the protection of her body, her internal organs and soul were being eroded by the sorcery energy. At present, 10% of her body had been eroded. In less than 10 days, Yongye Chushue would be completely eroded by the sorcery energy. When that happened, her whole body would be turned into sorcery energy and dissipate into the atmosphere. If she died, there would be no hope for the Great Desolation Smelter. Without the Great Desolation Smelter, it would be extremely troublesome for Suyu to refine the Cosmos Sword formation. Therefore, he had to save her. There was no need to think about expelling the sorcery energy from her body for the time being. The key was to stabilize her life. Fortunately, Suyu had searched the soul of a wizard in the ruins and learned some ways to alleviate the outbreak of sorcery energy. He just needed some special tools of the wizard tribe. The tools of the wizard tribe were very rare in the ancient god realm. If they were available, they were treated as collectibles and could not be found on the market. Chapter 1369. This city was the closest city to the lost nation in the heaven-defying empire, and had existed for countless years. After the descendants of the 9 great empires defeated the Moonwatch sect, they drew a line in this city. It could be said that this city had a very special status. Now that the heaven-defying empire had repeatedly sent troops to the lost nation, they stationed their troops in this city. Most of the soldiers who returned had brought back wizard tools as trophies. Some soldiers would openly sell them in the market, so it was not difficult to find wizard tools there. Having made up his mind, Suyu immediately went to Yongjin City. Along the way, Suyu kept using the Milky Way star sand, trying to extract wizard power and delay the outbreak. 5 days later, Suyu used the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole almost 10 times and finally arrived at Yongjin City at an incredible speed. Yongjin City was guarded by a huge army, and everywhere was filled with a solemn atmosphere of war preparation. However, there was an endless stream of practitioners. After the war, many practitioners would take the opportunity to wipe out the scattered wizards in the lost nation, capture and kill them, and plunder their belongings. Thus, an industry called Wizard Hunter was born. People like Suyu did not stand out at all when he came to Yongjin City. However, in Yongjin City, it was not as easy to find wizard tools as Suyu had imagined, which made Suyu feel slightly strange. Filled with doubts, Suyu chose a restaurant with a lot of people and listened to the news from all directions. Did you hear that? The first prince has won again. It is said that he fought with the saint of the Moonwatch sect. TSK, the first prince really has the shadow of the monarch of our empire. He is invincible and invincible. I heard that many wizards have been captured and a large amount of belongings have been seized. It is a pity that most of those belongings have to be handed over to the prince's palace to be handled. Of course. Those are all tools of the wizard tribe. If the Moonwatch sect buys them secretly, won't they be helping the enemy? Hearing their conversation, Suyu suddenly understood. It turned out that the wizard tools were all handled by the prince's palace. It seemed that there were only 2 ways to find wizard tools. One was to break into the prince's palace to look for them, and the other was to buy them from the wizard hunters. In comparison, of course, the second way was more suitable. Waiter. Suyu called the waiter here. The waiter knew that although Suyu was young, his sharp aura could not be faked. Hence, he did not dare to slight him. What do you need? Suyu said, let me ask you some questions. Do you know where there are more local wizard hunters? As he spoke, he tossed out a valuable ore. The waiter was overjoyed and hurriedly said, Sir, there are witch hunters everywhere, but if you're looking for a famous one, of course it's the Condor Witch Hunter Alliance. This alliance has gathered most of the powerful wizard hunters in the city. The leader of the alliance is a powerful deity in the level 4 realm. He is very powerful and once killed a level 4 wizard alone. Even the people in the prince's mansion admire him. Su Yu pondered for a moment, then asked, "So, they must have a large number of wizard tools in their hands?" Hearing this, the waiter said, "Of course, their spoils of war are all in the Alliance Hall, waiting for customers to choose at any time." "Is that so?" Su Yu stroked his chin and said, "All right." When he finished speaking, he got up and left. The waiter watched Su Yu leave, and a touch of mockery flashed across his simple and honest face. "Another ignorant fool who wants to die." Su Yu walked downstairs. Just as he was going down the stairs, an unprepossessing man in a white robe walked up to him. He had a peaceful temperament and was not eye-catching at all. Su Yu did not notice him at first, but when the man passed by Su Yu, he stopped in his tracks and looked at Su Yu with a slightly surprised look. That look made the wizard power hidden in Su Yu's body surge and almost leak out. Su Yu was startled and could not help but look at him. The man in the white robe smiled faintly and walked upstairs as if nothing had happened. Su Yu was secretly surprised. What was going on with this man in the white robe? After thinking for a while, Su Yu shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He immediately went to the Condor Witch Alliance. The Condor Witch Alliance was located in the suburbs, a slightly remote location, but it was very lively with people coming and going. Su Yu entered the main hall and found that there were many wizard tools of all kinds, and the prices were clearly marked. One of the methods that Su Yu was going to perform was a sorcery called the soul-subduing spell, which required more complicated wizard tools. After choosing, Su Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Most of them could be found, except for a fruit called the wizard dragon fruit. "What do you need, sir?" A wizard hunter in the Alliance who was in charge of sales asked with a smile. Su Yu said, "The wizard dragon fruit." Hearing that, the wizard hunter's eyes flickered, but he said, "The wizard dragon fruit. This fruit is extremely rare. Even those great wizards rarely have it, but I know that the Great Alliance Master has a few wizard dragon fruit." Su Yu said, "Money is not a problem. When can we trade?" The wizard hunter said awkwardly, "The Great Alliance Master is hunting wizards in the Lost Nation, and it will take at least a month for him to return." A month, Su Yu certainly could not wait. "Does anyone else have it?" "None." Su Yu frowned. Was he going to be stuck at a wizard dragon fruit? Right at that moment, a man dressed as a wizard hunter ran in from outside, panting. "I want to issue an urgent mission." The selling wizard hunter immediately looked away from Su Yu, and his eyes lit up. "The reward for urgent missions is doubled. Money is not a problem. After the mission is completed, there will be additional rewards." The man looked a little anxious. When the Wizard Hunting Alliance had sufficient manpower, they would also accept some missions to earn money. The selling wizard hunter said, "Tell me your reward first." The man thought for a moment, then took out a pile of items from the pouch at his waist. There were all kinds of freshly obtained wizard tools. Those who complete the mission can choose one of these items at will. Su Yu glanced at them, and his pupils shrank slightly. Among them was a purple-black, dragon-shaped fruit. It was the wizard dragon fruit. The selling wizard hunter looked at the wizard dragon fruit and was also stunned. He asked the man, "This little brother is very interested in the wizard dragon fruit. I wonder if you can sell it to him?" The man shook his head. No, I need a lot of people to help me complete the mission. I am not selling anything." The selling wizard hunter shrugged helplessly at Su Yu. Su Yu thought for a moment and said, "I wonder what kind of mission it is. Can I participate?" The man glanced at Su Yu and shook his head. "No, you must at least have the strength of a deity, unless you have some special advantages." Su Yu smiled slightly. "I have many special advantages. Which one do you want to see?" The man chuckled. "Boy, you are quite confident. Show me any one of them. If you can surprise me, you pass." Su Yu's eyes turned and he said, "For example, I saw that you hid 3 treasure maps on your body, one of which was stained with blood. Am I right?" The man's smile froze, and his face changed dramatically. He covered his chest and looked at Su Yu in surprise. How did you do it? I used some X-ray vision. It seems you are surprised. Su Yu smiled. The man looked at Su Yu deeply, and after a long time, he sighed helplessly. Well, you are in. I hope you will not be a burden to us. Let's meet here in 2 days. I have to gather more people. After a detailed discussion, Su Yu left with satisfaction. The reward for completing the mission was the wizard dragon fruit. After finding an inn to rest, Su Yu started to treat Yongye Chushue's wound while estimating the time. At this time, the news of what happened in the Shui nation of the North Territory finally reached the Empire. The Shui nation of the North Territory had betrayed the Empire and joined the heaven-defying Empire. For the Empire of Darkness, which was in chaos in the south and suffering from internal troubles, it was a bolt from the blue. Nitian Guyun. Yongye Jiuyang was furious. Then, he crushed the jade silk that carried the message. Yongye Wuheng said, Father, please calm down. The Shui nation of the North Territory has been in discord with the Empire for a long time. It is only a matter of time for them to betray us. However, they were so bold to kill Chushue. They were ready to declare their discord with her blood. At this point, Yongye Wuheng couldn't help but laugh. However, in the end, except for Prince Yun and Shui Xiaoman, all the members of the royal family of the Shui nation of the North Territory were killed by Chushu. This is a joke, isn't it? Only then did Yongye Jiuyang show a faint smile. This was the best way to vent his anger. The Shui nation of the North Territory failed to kill the princess. Instead, they were almost killed. This betrayal was a joke. The negative impact on the Empire was reduced to the lowest level. Chushue has escaped to the Yongzhen city of the heaven-defying Empire. You should lead some people to meet her, Yongye Jiuyang said. Then, his eyes lit up. In addition, you should take care of that matter. It is not appropriate for me to come here in person. Otherwise, the three of them will be attracted here. You have to handle this matter alone. Yongye Wuheng said seriously with a complicated expression, Yes, father. 2 days later, Su Yu arrived at the Alliance as promised. As expected, the man was waiting in the Alliance. However, there were 3 other people with him. It seemed they were also here to accept the task. One of them was a hunchbacked old man in a yellow robe. He was emitting a terrifying murderous aura. The other one was a fair-skinned young man with an arrogant look. His whole body was covered with the smell of blood. It seemed he had been through a lot of battles. Both of them were level 6 deities. Seeing Su Yu, the man said with a smile, I have been waiting for you. Hearing this, the arrogant young man looked Su Yu up and down. Then, he said discontentedly, You mean he has the art of clairvoyance? Why don't you find a prospective deity to help you? As a level 4 mortal fairy, I thought he would drag us down. The old man didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Su Yu expressionlessly. The man comforted him. The art of clairvoyance might come in handy in this task. As for dragging us down, our task is not dangerous. So, we won't drag you down. Hearing this, the arrogant young man snorted. Okay. Now, can you tell us about the task? The man said with a smile, Let me introduce myself. My name is Liang Quan, and I am a wizard hunter. 3 days ago, when I was hunting alone in the Lost Nation, I found something strange. When I stayed in a villa, I found all the creatures in the villa were contaminated by sorcery energy. Therefore, I suspect there are people of the wizard tribe in the villa who disguise themselves as creatures of the ancient god realm. Chapter 1370. Hee, that's right. The arrogant young man said, I've heard rumors about the wizard tribe hiding in the evil Fending Villa. I've been wanting to find out for a long time. Now that 3 of us are here, we can give it a try. He said there were only 3 of them, completely ignoring Su Yu. Everyone, if you can help me kill a wizard at the level of a deity, I will redeem your items and offer them to you with both hands. Liang Quan took out 3 items, one of which was the wizard dragon fruit promised to Su Yu. Everyone, please confirm it. If there are no problems, let's go now. Su Yu glanced at them, confirmed that there were no problems, and nodded happily. The group left the alliance and headed towards a mountain covered in thick fog. This fog doesn't disperse all year round. It is said that it has existed since the birth of the ancient divine realm. There are many strange creatures living in it, and they are usually very powerful. Along the way, they stopped at a mountain to rest. Liang Quan explained, breaking the disharmonious atmosphere. However, we are only at the periphery. There are no powerful beasts near the evil fending villa. You can rest assured about that. Hearing that, Su Yu pondered. I wonder who founded the evil fending villa? Why did they build it in the desolate lost nation? Weren't they afraid that the wizards of the Moonwatch sect would attack them at any time? Before Liang Quan could respond, the arrogant young man replied, How dare you take the risk if you don't even know that? The evil fending villa was founded by the emperor of the heaven-defying empire, Qiubai. Its purpose was to establish a stronghold to monitor the movements of the Moonwatch sect in the Lost Nation. If they make any strange moves, the evil fending villa will send an alarm in time. So that was it. Su Yu didn't mind the arrogance in his words. He was deep in thought. We have rested enough. Let's go. As Liang Quan said, there was no danger along the way. They successfully arrived at the evil fending villa. The evil fending villa was shrouded in white fog. It was extremely quiet, except for the sound of insects. Inside the villa, there were few people. At the moment, not a single person could be seen. Anyone who saw it would feel strange and eerie. Su Yu and the others approached the villa, and indeed sensed a trace of abnormality. The mountain behind the villa was filled with gray fog. It was sorcery energy. As Liang Quan said, there were wizards around the villa. Who is it? With a creak, the door to the villa opened. An extremely short man with a long beard stuck his head out and looked around nervously. Liang Quan smiled and said, Don't be afraid. We are witch hunters. We sensed the aura of the witch tribe nearby. We were worried that the witch tribe would invade, so we rushed over. One by one, the bearded man looked at them as if he had been pardoned. You're finally here. I'm saved. Thank you for coming to our aid. If you hadn't come, we would have been sucked dry by that shaman. 3? Liang Quan looked back. There were 4 of them, right? Why were there only 3 of them in this old fellow's eyes? However, the focus was on the wizard tribe. There really is a wizard. Where is he? The short man with a long beard said. He comes and goes without a trace. He only appears in the middle of the night. If he's lucky, he'll take away the domestic animals. If he's lucky, he'll take away the servants. 3 servants have already been taken away. When we went up the mountain to look for them the next day, we could only find their skins that had been sucked dry. The rest of the servants have been scared away. Now, only Master and I are left. We are still abiding by the late Emperor's will, guarding this place and monitoring the actions of the wizard tribe. The short man with a long beard said, We've informed the guards at the foot of the mountain a few days ago, but no reinforcements have come. Today, you must help us capture that wizard tribe no matter what. Liang Quan said, Don't worry. We're here today to deal with the wizard tribe. Don't worry, let us set up an ambush in the mansion. The short man with a long beard was more than happy to oblige. Under Liang Quan's arrangement, they had set up an inescapable trap inside the villa. As long as any living creature from the outside broke into the mansion, it would trigger the formation and be trapped by it. Su Yu was assigned to the southeast corner to secretly monitor the changes of the formation. The other 3 men each guarded a corner, keeping a close watch. Time passed slowly. It was midnight, but there was no movement outside the mansion. However, the short man with a long beard's miserable scream pierced through the night sky. Su Yu's eyes flashed, and he knew it was bad. Liang Quan was even more shocked. After a moment, he realized that something was wrong. It's that servant. We were all wrong. That wizard tribe member didn't come from the forest outside the mansion, but was hiding inside the mansion. There were only 2 living creatures in the mansion. Since the servant had been captured, the one who did it was undoubtedly the wizard tribe member disguised as a living creature of the ancient god realm. Liang Quan yelled, "Search! The master of the evil fending villa is a wizard tribe member." The group gathered together and searched the rooms one by one. Finally, they found some traces left behind in the ancestral hall. All of a sudden, an eerie roar came from the ancestral hall. A pair of eyes, like ghost fire, peered out from the darkness of the ancestral hall. They saw a highly decayed humanoid monster dripping with liquid all over, emitting a thick scent of the wizard tribe. Its blood-red eyes were wide open, and it was growling at them. As for the short man with a long beard, he was probably dead. The arrogant young man sized up the humanoid monster, and his eyes were filled with shock. "The master of the evil fending villa, by Haixing. I recognize the jade crown on his head. He's turned into a wizard tribe monster." Liang Quan composed himself. "Don't be afraid, everyone. Let's attack together and kill him." The group nodded and rushed into the ancestral hall to kill the wizard tribe member. This wizard tribe member was quite powerful. It fought with the 3 of them in a desperate struggle, and it didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. It was only when the arrogant young man threw out a precious explosive talisman and blew a hole in its head that Liang Quan and the hunchbacked elder found an opportunity to deal a fatal blow to the wizard tribe member, smashing his head into pieces. With a howl of indignation and sorrow, the wizard tribe member fell to the ground and turned into a puddle of mist, leaving behind a pile of wizard tribe items. The eyes of Liang Quan and the others lit up, and they divided up the treasures on the spot. Liang Quan looked at Su Yu, who was standing outside the ancestral hall, and said with a smile, "Little brother, you don't want to share?" Su Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and said calmly, "I'm only interested in the wizard tribe. I don't want to touch anything that belongs to the creatures of the ancient god realm." Upon hearing that, the arrogant young man sneered coldly. "You're crazy! We killed the wizard tribe, how could it be a creature of the ancient god realm?" He didn't notice that Liang Quan's eyes were gradually darkening. After staring at Su Yu for a while, he sighed leisurely. "It seems that I've met someone with good eyesight. No wonder you refused to enter the ancestral hall. You must have noticed that something was wrong, haven't you?" The arrogant young man's sneer froze, and his expression changed. He stood up abruptly and rushed out, yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" Liang Quan's honest face was gradually replaced by a sinister look. He snapped his fingers in the air. "You really should have trusted him. It's too late to leave now." Clang! At the entrance of the ancestral hall, the iron door made of precious ores fell abruptly. The arrogant young man slashed with his sword, and the body of the sword was cut in half. The arrogant young man's expression finally changed. He leaned against the iron door and stared at Liang Quan vigilantly and angrily. "What do you want?" Liang Quan pointed at the corpse on the ground gloomily. "I want to find a substitute, of course, so that I can deceive the other deities." "Old senior, let's subdue this person together," the arrogant young man said to the hunchbacked old man, putting away his arrogance. The awe-inspiring hunchbacked old man tilted his head and looked at him. He, who hadn't spoken a word, suddenly flashed a creepy smile. "What makes you think that I'm not in cahoots with him?" "What?" the arrogant young man gasped. You're working together to murder him?" The 2 of them sneered and attacked at the same time. After a short exchange of blows, the arrogant young man was lying on the ground, a pitch-black dagger stuck in his back. The poison in the dagger slowly flowed into his body, causing it to rot gradually, and the smell of decay gradually spread out. His appearance was exactly the same as the person they had seen before. The hunchbacked old man picked up the jade crown on the ground and placed it on the arrogant young man's head. He said gloomily, "This is the crown of the evil fending villa's master. Don't drop it." At that moment, Liang Quan poked the hunchbacked old man's waist. "Look outside." The hunchbacked old man looked outside and couldn't help but grimace. "Hiss, he hasn't escaped yet. Is he scared out of his wits? Although, it's impossible for him to escape anyway." Liang Quan frowned slightly. He opened the iron door and walked out of the cage. He said cautiously, "Old Wu, be careful. I keep getting the feeling that this kid is a little strange." The hunchbacked old man didn't think much of it. "He's just a fourth-realm mortal fairy. How strange can he be?" "Hey, kid, how did you see through our conspiracy to murder him? Tell me, maybe I'll be in a good mood and spare you some physical pain," the hunchbacked old man said gloomily. Suyu said calmly, "I've seen more wizards than you, and their levels are higher. Not any living creature can pretend to be a wizard with a little bit of sorcery energy." When he saw the living creature in the ancestral hall, Suyu knew it was a trap. Besides, how can there be such a coincidence in this world? I just happen to be lacking the wizard dragon fruit, and a wizard hunter with a wizard dragon fruit immediately issued a mission? And this wizard hunter is exceptionally magnanimous, agreeing to take a burden along with him just by showing me some tricks? It could be said that Suyu had been vigilant from the very beginning. Liang Quan smiled. "So, we didn't set it up well and aroused your suspicion?" Suyu nodded. "Yes, this method is too crude. It can only deceive people who are ignorant of the ways of the world." He looked at the arrogant young man's corpse with pity. When Suyu refused to enter, the arrogant young man could have reacted and escaped if he had been smart enough. Unfortunately, he thought too highly of himself and didn't understand Suyu's intention. The hunchbacked old man's face became even more gloomy. "Then, why don't you tell us, what are your last words?" "Last words?" Suyu smiled. "I want to ask you, how many times have you done this?" The stooped old man counted with his fingers and chuckled. "I can't remember, there are a lot of them." Chapter 1371. The hunchbacked old man burst into laughter. "Liang Quan, has this kid gone mad?" His heart was pierced through by a fist. Blood flowed in reverse and poured into his throat, rendering him unable to speak. The old man's face was full of pain, disbelief, and confusion. His eyes went dark and his body went limp. Liang Quan witnessed this scene with his own eyes, and he was horrified. He didn't even see how Suyu attacked, and the old man was killed on the spot. What shocked him even more was that a crack appeared between Suyu's eyebrows and devoured the old man's soul before he could escape. Liang Quan's feet turned cold, as if he had encountered something extremely horrible. He screamed and ran out of the villa. Suyu's cold eyes locked onto him. Strangely, he didn't chase after him. Instead, he stood where he was and said calmly, "Don't try to trick me. The formations in the yard are actually used to trap and kill escaping prey." As soon as he finished speaking, Liang Quan, who was already running away, gradually stopped and looked back. There was no longer any fear on his face. All that was left was fear. How did you see through that? He had killed countless people and was aware that he would be killed. How could he be so frightened by the old man's death? He was just luring Suyu into the formation in the villa so that it would be easier to trap and kill him. Suyu said calmly, "As I said, your methods are too crude and clumsy." Liang Quan stared at Suyu with fear. He seemed to be waiting for Suyu to come forward and give him a fatal blow. Suyu did not move. He said calmly, "A real wizard, I don't think there is any need for you to hide anymore." Sizzle! 3 feet in front of Liang Quan, bursts of gray smoke rose from the ground. The breath of a real wizard had arrived. It turned out that there was a trap here. If Suyu came in front of Liang Quan, his back would be exposed to this hidden wizard. They cooperated very well. It was not the first time they had done this. They must have been here for a long time to kill the creatures of the ancient god realm. The gray smoke condensed into a human figure. It was a short man with a long beard. Suyu said calmly, "If I'm not mistaken, your servant is a real wizard." Obviously, His scream just now was just an act to lure them over. The short man with the long beard glared at Suyu. Damn it! What's wrong with you? Why did I only see 3 people when I came, but not you? Suyu smiled calmly. Are you talking about this? In an instant, his figure disappeared from where he stood. Strangely, Liang Quan could see him. This was the magical effect of the illusory soul mirror. As long as one's soul was stronger than the opponent's, one could confuse the opponent's soul with just a thought. The short-bearded man was secretly shocked. This is a soul god art? Furthermore, it's a very advanced soul divine ability. You're not an ordinary person. After pondering for a moment, the short-bearded man said in a deep voice, "You can leave now." He could instinctively feel the danger, and was unwilling to fight with Suyu, even though he was a level 5 great wizard. However, when facing Suyu, he still felt a sense of uncertainty, as if he was facing an abyss. Suyu didn't leave, and he said, "You didn't ask me whether I was willing to let you go." As he spoke, 2 rings flew out of Suyu's sleeves. The short-bearded man laughed angrily. "Since you want to see who's better, I'll grant you your wish." Soul-enchanting spell. Tyrannical waves of wizard power filled the air, blocking the 2 rings in the air. Before Liang Quan had time to breathe a sigh of relief, he saw Suyu casually take out a feather and gently fan it. In an instant, a strong gust of wind dissipated and went straight for the short-bearded man. He sneered. "What can the treasures of the ancient god realm do to our sorcery? Wind-stabilizing spell. Just like when Xue Xiaoman fought the great wizard at the bottom of the myriad bone mountain, a wind-stabilizing spell destroyed the magical treasures. The storm dissipated, and the divine feather of frost fell back powerlessly. However, before the short-bearded man could catch his breath, Suyu took out another thing, which turned out to be a piece of black wood. Seeing this wood, the short-bearded man's face finally changed. Soul-stabilizing wood. Suyu nodded lightly. "It's good that you know it." As he spoke, he raised his hand and threw it into the air. The wood exuded a calming aura in the air. The waves of wizard power were swept by the aura, strangely weakening and quickly dissipating. The 2 rings of yin and yang in the air lost their resistance and immediately fused into one. They crossed the void and suddenly wrapped themselves around the short-bearded man. He was shocked. "Let me go." Suyu's eyes were cold. "You should be begging me not to kill you." As Suyu approached step by step, an indifferent and arrogant voice came from afar. "I'll return that to you as well." As soon as the voice fell, a wave of pure wizard power, no less than that of the Holy Maiden, suddenly swept over. The soul-stabilizing wood in the air was immediately shattered under the sweep of the wizard power. It could not offset such a powerful wizard power at all. The purple gold rings of yin and yang on the short-bearded man trembled violently under the sweep of the waves, and there were faint signs of it being shaken off. Suyu snorted coldly. "That may not be true." With a flip of his palm, an emerald flute appeared in Suyu's palm. He put it to his mouth and played it with divine power. Suddenly, an ethereal celestial sound, as if the celestial sound had descended from the heavens, drifted over. As the celestial sound passed, the waves of wizard power were like the first snow meeting the warm sun, quickly melting and dissipating without a trace. The purple gold rings of yin and yang stabilized again, tightly wrapping around the short-bearded man. Suyu put away the flute, grabbed a man in each hand, displayed the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole, and left the villa in an instant. He had to leave, because Suyu felt an evil and powerful force rapidly approaching. As soon as he left, a black wind rolled up a young man with long fiery red hair. The young man's body was extremely thin, as if he was only skin and bones. His 2 eye sockets were deeply sunken, making his eyes look extremely protruding, adding to his fierce temperament. He looked around and said in a hoarse voice, "There are many who can block my attack, but there are not many who are my age." Who was that creature from the ancient god realm just now? Has another peerless genius appeared in the ancient god realm after so many years? After a moment of silence, the fierce young man said, however, the purpose of coming here today is to get rid of the dirty tricks left behind. If the sect leader finds out, I will definitely lose to Luo Shui and not inherit the position of sect leader. Swish. In an instant, Su Yu returned to the outskirts of Yongzhen City, on a mountain. The short-bearded man was tightly bound, unable to escape. Su Yu looked at Liang Quan. Liang Quan's whole body turned cold when Su Yu looked at him coldly. His whole body trembled. Please, please have mercy on me. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended you. Liang Quan took out the wizard dragon fruit and presented it to Su Yu with trembling hands. This is the wizard dragon fruit that you wanted, sir. Please spare my life, sir. Su Yu did not look at him. He extended a finger and pointed it between his eyebrows. He said coldly, I may not care if you kill all living beings, but collude with the foreign races and harm your own people. There is no way I will forgive you. Poof! A beam of dragon power penetrated his fingertip and pierced through his head. As for his soul, Su Yu swallowed it on the spot. After taking the wizard dragon fruit, Su Yu looked at the short-bearded man and said indifferently, Now that you have fallen into my hands, you should know that there is no way for you to live, right? The short-bearded man sneered. Don't pretend to be kind and righteous. All the creatures of the ancient god realm kill the disciples of the Moonwatch sect when they see them. You're wrong about that. I've killed many sorcerers, but the number of sorcerers and even grand sorcerers I've released is no less than 100. Su Yu said indifferently, I kill people, not people. If you do not harm the creatures of the ancient god realm, or even do it for good, I will certainly let you go. However, your actions are not part of the list. The short-bearded man was stunned. He did not seem to believe Su Yu's words. He believed that Su Yu had killed many wizards. What do you want to ask, or what do you want? Su Yu said, I want to ask, you colluded with the scum of the ancient god realm. You didn't just lure them and kill them, did you? These methods are inefficient and very troublesome. The short-bearded man hesitated for a long while and sighed. I am working for the saint. The one who fought with me through the air just now. Su Yu's eyes flashed. He is very powerful, slightly stronger than your saint lady. The short-bearded man was taken aback. Could it be that he had fought with the saintess before? Who on earth was this person? Yes, that's our holy son. I was ordered by him to collect souls for him and help him practice the first forbidden technique of the wizard tribe. This forbidden technique kills a lot of people. If I look for souls in the Moonwatch sect, I will definitely be discovered, the short-bearded man said. Su Yu's eyes were deep and cold. So, you look for souls among the creatures of the ancient god realm? Because this matter is not suitable to be made public, you can only collect them in this way, in a low-key and sneaky way? Yes. Su Yu's eyes became even colder. If I am not mistaken, there should be many people like you who collect souls for the saint, right? The short-bearded man was shocked. How could he guess that? Yes, most of them are wizards who follow the saint, but there are also some humans who have been bribed by us, including some senior generals of the heaven-defying Empire Army. In addition, there are many people in the Alliance who serve us. They have collected hundreds of times more souls than I have. Su Yu's face calmed down and he said lightly, I don't care about the wizards. Tell me who among the creatures of the ancient god realm has become your people. Don't leave anyone out. The short-bearded man shuddered. He felt that Su Yu, who had calmed down, was much more terrifying than the cold-faced Su Yu. An hour later, the short-bearded man gave Su Yu a list of all the creatures of the ancient god realm that he knew. Su Yu glanced at it casually and found a familiar name, Fei Ying. If he remembered correctly, he was the Alliance Master of the Condor Alliance, a level 4 deity. Even the Alliance Master kills his own people and gives them to the enemy in exchange for benefit. Aren't the people under him rotten? Su Yu said lightly, recalling how he was led to the villa by Liang Quan, and remembered the wizard hunter who sold the fruit. Without him secretly informing Liang Quan, how did Liang Quan know that Su Yu needed the wizard dragon fruit? Glancing at the list, as expected, the number of members of the Condor Alliance who participated accounted for nearly 30% of the total. In other words, more than 30% of the people had killed their own people. After remembering all the people on the list, Su Yu said slowly, "Throughout the history of mankind, the ones who are the most ruthless to themselves are often not the enemies, but the traitors." Raising his finger, Su Yu kept his promise and gave the short-bearded man a quick death. Standing up, Su Yu looked at Yongjin City and said calmly, "My hands have not been stained with the blood of my own people for a long time." The speed was not as fast as expected. Although he wrote for a whole day, he still wrote 7 chapters by 11:30 p.m. Chapter 1372. If possible, Su Yu did not want to do it himself. With a cold look in his eyes, Su Yu walked towards the Condor Alliance on the outskirts. It was very strange that when he came a few days ago, there were countless wizard hunters outside the Condor Alliance. Now there was not a single soul on the road. Did something happen? Su Yu became alert. Sure enough, when he approached the Condor Alliance, he smelled blood. Looking at the Alliance, there were floating corpses and rivers of blood. The most eye-catching were the 2 corpses. One of them was the wizard hunter who conspired to lure Su Yu into the evil Fending Villa to sell the wizard tribe tools. His body was torn apart, leaving only his head intact. His face was full of horror. The other was a level 4 deity. His soul had been taken away, and his body was hung at the entrance of the Condor Alliance, on the huge statue of the Condor Alliance. His identity was self-evident. He was the Alliance Master of the Condor Alliance. It was said that he had killed a wizard of the same level, but he died in an instant. In addition, there were at least 100 corpses floating everywhere. All of them died miserably. Su Yu was secretly shocked. From the way they fell to the ground, all of them died in an instant. Hundreds of people were killed in an instant, and most of them were level 6 deities. Su Yu felt a chill run down his spine, and he shuddered. Who did it? Not only was it ruthless, but it was also extremely powerful. Was it a level 3 deity? It seemed like it, but it was not. Even a level 3 deity would not be able to do such an amazing thing. Stepping into the Alliance, Su Yu glanced at the corpses and was surprised to find that these people seemed to be on the list he wanted to kill. The more he searched for their identities, the more surprised Su Yu became. More than 100 wizard hunters had died, and they were all on the list. Of course, there were some people that the short mustache did not know who were also killed. Who did it? Su Yu was shocked. Someone was one step ahead of him and had started a massacre. Swoosh. When Su Yu passed by the back hall of the Condor Alliance, a shadow suddenly attacked and fled into the sky. Su Yu's eyes narrowed, and 2 rings flew out of his sleeves and merged into one in the air, trapping him on the spot. Titan! Once the violet gold yin-yang rings wrapped around them, all living beings would lose the ability to resist. As he fell, the figure revealed itself. It was the waiter from the restaurant. His face was filled with fear, as if he had encountered the most terrifying thing in his life. Recalling that the waiter had recommended the Condor Alliance to Su Yu, coupled with the fact that he was sneaking around, Su Yu could not help but frown. He grabbed him by the neck. "Who the hell are you?" "No, don't kill me, I was forced to do this." The waiter was flustered and begged bitterly. Su Yu sized him up coldly. "What happened here? Who did this?" The waiter said in a trembling voice, "I didn't do it. I just accepted a bribe from them and recommended outsiders to the Condor Alliance. I don't even know what they did." Sure enough, he specialized in killing outsiders, helping the Saint of the Moonwatch sect collect souls, and practicing the so-called number 1 forbidden technique. Even a waiter had been bribed. How many more people were hiding in Yongjin City who were aiding the evildoer? "I'll ask you again, who did this?" Su Yu asked. The waiter was panic-stricken. A hotel guest gave me a piece of precious wood and asked me to bring him here. Then, with a gesture, he killed hundreds of people, and the rest fled. Why didn't you flee? Suyu glanced at the several space storage items in his arms and said with contempt, "People die for wealth, and birds die for food. People like you deserve to die." Was it possible for him to say that he did not know what the Condor Alliance had done? He knew it well, but he still lied to outsiders who did not know what was going on. Such a person should not exist in this world. With a flick of his finger, Suyu pierced his head. As for the storage ring on his body, Suyu was too lazy to search it. Just like that, when Suyu was about to leave, there was a loud noise outside the Alliance. Countless auras of experts rushed over in a frenzy surrounding this place. "Are they the guards in the city?" Suyu said calmly. He hid his figure and suppressed his breath at the same time. Before the army completely surrounded him, he disappeared without a trace. He did not think that the guards would be reasonable enough to listen to his explanation if he appeared at the scene of the crime. Swish! 3 tyrannical auras descended, all of which belonged to level 4 deities. The 3 of them looked solemn. The news that the Condor Alliance was attacked by a mysterious person and hundreds of people died in an instant had finally reached their ears. How could they not take such a serious matter seriously? They immediately sent strong men to investigate. Looking at the miserable death of the Alliance Master, the 3 commanders trembled in fear. They had heard of the strength of this Alliance Master. He could kill wizards of the same level, which showed how powerful he was. He was stronger than them. However, such a person also died in such a strange way. Moreover, the person who reported the incident said that hundreds of people died tragically in a single breath. Only a level 2 deity could do such a terrible thing, the white-faced leader in the middle said with fear in his eyes. The leader on the left was a middle-aged woman with a strong murderous aura. She stared at the corpses and said, "I felt the breath left by the wizard tribe." As expected, the wizard tribe participated in this. The wizard tribe? A wizard tribe that killed hundreds of people in an instant under the eyes of our army and could still leave calmly? The leader on the right was a rather old man with wrinkles. His whole body was as dry as a tree trunk. Suddenly, the old man sensed something. His dry right hand suddenly turned into a tree root and reached into the Alliance. He grabbed a person. It was the waiter who had just been killed. "The body is still warm." "He died not long ago," the old man with wrinkles said. The wrinkled old man spoke. His eyes were slightly narrowed and suffused with strands of jade-green light as he looked at the dim eyes of the waiter. A wonderful scene appeared. In the eyes of the waiter, the shadow that was left when he died enlarged and floated in the air, appearing in front of them. It was a young man in white. His face was a little blurry, and they could only recognize his outline. The other 2 leaders were slightly surprised. Could it be that this person did it? The old man checked the eyes of the other corpses one by one. However, as time had passed, his eyes had become dim and he could not find any clues. We can only infer that this person was at the scene and killed the waiter. As for whether he is the real murderer, we need to confirm it. Hearing that, the other 2 leaders nodded. No matter what, put a warrant on this person's head first. Although we can't see his face clearly, if anyone notices someone similar, they can report to the Guardian Army for a reward. The 3 leaders issued the mission. The wrinkled old man looked deeply at the corpses on the ground, and a strange light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Back at the inn, Suyu immediately set up a formation outside the room. If there was any disturbance, Suyu would wake up immediately. He let Yongye Chushu out and laid her flat on the bed. She had fallen into a deep coma at the moment, and a 3-foot thick gray fog had formed on the surface of her body. The gray fog was extremely aggressive. If it was not touched, it could enter the body of the healer, which was very dangerous. It's the 8th day, and more than 80% of my body has been corroded. If I don't suppress it, no one can save me, Suyu said to himself. With a wave of his hand, a series of wizard tools and wizard dragon fruits appeared in front of him. According to the memory in his mind, Su Yu first took out a wizard tool that looked like a scarecrow and pressed a wizard nail into its chest, head, and abdomen. The function of the wizard nails was to protect the 3 vital parts of the body, to prevent the fluctuations of sorcery energy during the treatment process from causing irreparable harm. After completing the first step, Su Yu took out a pitch-black vessel that looked like a ladle. He added many materials that contained sorcery energy into it in a precise order, and then crushed them into powder one by one. Next, Su Yu grabbed the wizard dragon fruit and used a wisp of golden flames forbidden wood sword light to accurately cut the wizard dragon fruit into pieces. In this way, the juice of the wizard dragon fruit was preserved in its most complete state. It flowed into the vessel and blended with the crushed powder. Under the kneading of Su Yu's mortal fairy strength, it turned into a sticky purple-black substance. According to the method of suppression, if you smear this all over the body, it can absorb the sorcery energy that erupts, Su Yu said, glancing at Yongye Chushue's body. He had no choice but to strip her of all her clothes. "Excuse me," Su Yu said softly. He then carefully and evenly applied the purplish-black sticky substance to every part of her body. To ensure that not an inch of her body was missed, Su Yu went back and forth several times before he finally succeeded. The seemingly simple process took 2 days and 2 nights. Coupled with the recent use of the yin-yang tai chi wings, Su Yu felt overwhelmed. He leaned against the edge of the bed and fell into a deep sleep. Although he was tired, the method was indeed effective. After the viscous substance was smeared all over, the 3-foot-thick gray mist was gradually absorbed by the viscous substance. As the gray fog became thinner and thinner, Yongye Chushue, who had been in a coma for many days, finally woke up from her deep sleep. Yongye Chushue felt her head was heavy, and there was a stabbing pain in her head from time to time. "I can't believe I'm still alive. What a miracle," Yongye Chushue murmured in surprise as she regained consciousness. At that time, she was fighting with the king of the Shui nation in the North Territory. The sorcery energy that had been suppressed in her body for a long time suddenly erupted, causing her to lose her combat power. Then, she was seriously injured by the king of the Shui nation in the North Territory. Before she passed out, she only remembered a group of disgusting faces surrounding her. After that, she remembered falling into a warm embrace, and finally completely falling into a coma and losing consciousness. Thinking of this, she was even more surprised. Let's not talk about how she escaped from the hands of the king of the Shui nation in the North Territory and a group of royal family members who had revealed their true nature. It was impossible for her to survive just from the outburst of sorcery energy. At that moment, a cold feeling swept over her body. Yongye Chushue looked down, and her face flushed with surprise. He saw that he was naked and covered in a strange viscous liquid from head to toe. That was not all, but Su Yu was sleeping so close to her. A wave of shame and annoyance welled up in her heart. Did he smear this sticky substance on me? Did he take off my clothes? Does that mean I was touched from head to toe? She never expected that the incident at the colorful poison pool in the Myriad Bone Mountain would happen again so soon after. She raised her palm and was about to hit Su Yu's head. However, after gritting her teeth, she suddenly gave up and sighed helplessly. Am I being ungrateful? He rescued me and healed me. Why am I being so unreasonable? She was very intelligent. The moment she saw Su Yu, she understood why she had survived to this day. Of course, it was Su Yu who had saved her. She raised her eyes and looked at Su Yu deeply. He was the person she had chosen and asked to escort her to the Lost Nation. At first, she only thought that Su Yu's temperament, intelligence, and memory made him the most suitable candidate for her. Other than that, she had no other ideas. As for his strength, Yongye Chushue had never taken it seriously. However, during the incident at the Woods of Drunken Immortals, even a fool would have known that Su Yu had hidden his strength. After all, Su Yu had something to do with the death of Shuizhongbao. After that, he was able to successfully escape from the heavy siege of the Shui nation of the Northern Territory, which made her feel even more mysterious and curious. After looking at him carefully, Yongye Chushue found that Su Yu was actually very handsome. Even according to the aesthetic standards of the creatures of the Yongye clan, he was still an extremely handsome man. Her heart was moved, and Yongye Chushue couldn't help but look at him a few more times. Then, she withdrew her eyes in embarrassment and said to herself, "What am I thinking? He is a pervert who touched me naked." But then, she said to herself, however, if it is him, it seems that it is okay to be touched naked, right? Yes, anyway, he has already touched me once, so it is not a big deal. She had also been touched before. She bore a grudge against the demon beast. However, she chose to ignore Su Yu. Chapter 1373. Su Yu slept for a long time. After recovering a little, he woke up and saw Yongye Chushue, who had put on her clothes and looked shy. "You're awake." Yongye Chushue's tone was less dignified than that of a princess and more approachable. Su Yu looked at her, who had put on her clothes, and felt slightly awkward. He nodded and said, "I'm relieved that you're fine. I have something to do." Yongye Chushue stretched out her little hand. "Give it to me." Su Yu was stunned. "Give what to me?" "The fairy wine from the woods of drunken immortals," Yongye Chushue said proudly. "Without my help, could you steal all the fairy wine? Now they have all been confiscated by this princess." Su Yu was stunned and said, "You should go back to sleep." Yongye Chushue pouted. "You can give me half of it." Su Yu ignored her and closed his eyes to practice silently. 100 drops will do. What? Not even 10 drops? Just 1 drop, just kill me. Wait, I want 1 drop. You win. Yongye Chushue, who had obtained a drop of fairy wine, treated it like a treasure. She kept it carefully and no longer pestered Su Yu. Instead, she stood by the window and looked around curiously. "I heard that the first prince of the heaven-defying empire, Nitian Hanxing, is leading the army personally. This man is a powerful figure. In the ancient god realm, he is also the leader of this generation. He is invincible among his peers. None of the heirs of the 4 great empires can compete with him." Su Yu opened half of his eyes. "Since you look forward to meeting him so much, why don't you go and meet him? I believe that with your identity, appearance, and temperament, the first prince will not neglect you if he wants to." After driving this woman away, Su Yu could practice quietly for a while. However, after hearing the first half of his words, Yongye Chushue was quite happy. When she heard the latter half, her mood suddenly turned gloomy. She turned her head and said seriously, "Do you think I am such a woman?" Su Yu was stunned. How could she turn against him so quickly? "Ahem, I didn't mean it. Please don't take it to heart, princess," Su Yu said. Yongye Chushue was still in a bad mood. She quietly returned to her bed, sat cross-legged, and started to circulate her divine power to heal her body. "It's good for you to cultivate in peace. Although the outburst of wizard power has been temporarily alleviated, it's only an expedient measure. If you don't get rid of the remaining curse from within, you'll still be in endless danger." Yongye Chushue opened her eyes and glared at him. Su Yu's concern had lifted her mood. "Once my royal brother brings the great desolation furnace, we can set off. The one who started the trouble should be the one to solve it. The only way to solve the curse is to search for it in the lost nation. As long as I can find that place, I have a 70% chance of successfully solving the curse." Upon hearing that, Su Yu nodded and closed his eyes again to comprehend the heaven-fighting 3 strokes. His mind returned to the sky, savoring the heaven-trampling style of that indomitable man. After a long while, Su Yu opened his eyes, which radiated a shocking wave of fighting will. Puff, the array formations and restrictions set up in the house disappeared in an instant. Even the entire inn shook violently, as if it was going to collapse. "Who is it?" In panic, the inn owner activated the array formations in the inn, barely stabilizing the inn and preventing it from being destroyed. Sensing that something was wrong, Su Yu quickly restrained his fighting will. Although he reacted quickly, he still frightened some people, such as Yongye Chushue. My royal brother's heaven fighting 3 strokes? Yongye Chushue stared at Su Yu in a daze, her beautiful eyes flashing with shock. Have you also comprehended the heaven fighting 3 strokes? Su Yu was speechless. Every time he comprehended the heaven fighting 3 strokes, he had a feeling that he couldn't extricate himself from it. When he woke up, he couldn't control the external force. Now Yongye Chushue really noticed it. Yes, Commander Shangguan gave me a chance to comprehend the mural, and I just comprehended a little bit. Yongye Chushue shook her head seriously. Don't lie to me. The degree of your comprehension is more than 10 times better than my royal brother's. My royal brother has only comprehended a little bit of it in 10 years, but you have already reached the upper class of the first stroke. Su Yu didn't explain. So what? Yongye Chushue blinked. So what? Of course, it's the re-ranking of the geniuses of the ancient god realm. If it weren't for the limitation of your cultivation, your talent would definitely surpass that of any contemporary genius. So what? Su Yu said again. Fame is just a burden to me. It's better to keep a low profile and walk my own path. Hearing this extraordinary words that didn't match his age, Yongye Chushue's eyes lit up, and her heart beat restlessly. This was the first time in her life that she had met such an extraordinary man. He possessed all kinds of special techniques and divine abilities, and he was extremely intelligent. Yet, he was so calm and quiet. He was completely different from his peers. If we can come back from the lost nation alive, we will definitely recommend you to our royal father. A talent like you shouldn't be buried in the wilderness, Yongye Chushue said. Su Yu smiled noncommittally. Yongye Jiang was now searching for him all over the world. By the way, while you were comprehending, I received a message from my royal brother. He has arrived in the heaven-defying empire and will meet us in 5 days. Su Yu was a little surprised. He had been comprehending for 5 days? At the same time, Su Yu was also a little relieved to learn that Yongye Wuheng had arrived. After taking the Great Desolation Furnace, Su Yu could leave. Is there any movement in the city? Su Yu asked. Yongye Chushue looked solemn. Yes. And it is very strange. Wizard hunters in the city have been dying mysteriously. More than 30% of the members of the Condor Alliance were assassinated by a mysterious person. In the following 5 days, many members of the Wizard Hunter Alliance died, and then they were disbanded. The strange thing is that no one has seen the true face of the person who killed them. Yesterday, an important piece of news came out. Several senior generals under the first prince were assassinated one after another. Hearing this, Su Yu was deep in thought. Assassinating the Wizard Hunter Alliance was not a big deal, and he could do it too. However, going deep into the military camp and killing a high-ranking general as if he was in no man's land was no small matter. Even with the number of strong men in the military camp, the top defensive formations, and the magic treasures, they still couldn't stop the assassination. How powerful was the person who killed them? Moreover, what was even more strange was that all the people he killed were creatures of the ancient god realm who helped the Holy Sun collect souls and practice forbidden technique. Although Su Yu was curious about the identity of the person, this person had done what Su Yu wanted to do. Naturally, Su Yu would not do anything unnecessary. Unfortunately, what he did not know was that his appearance in the Condor Alliance had more or less caused trouble. Dong, dong. A series of footsteps came up the stairs, accompanied by a fierce, murderous aura. Clang. With a loud noise, the door of the room they were in was kicked open, and a group of guards with a strong aura walked in. The leader was a 1,000-man general with good strength. He was a level 5 deity. He held the wanted picture in his hand, looked at Su Yu, and shouted, "Suspect, take him away!" Clatter. Several guards behind him immediately stepped forward and surrounded Su Yu. Yongye Chushue's pretty face turned cold. "What are you doing?" The 1,000-man general said coldly. "Someone reported that he looks very similar to the criminal who recently killed the wizard hunters. We were ordered to take him back for investigation." Yongye Chushue said, "It's not him. For the past 5 days, he has not taken a step out of this house. How could he have left the house to kill people?" "Humph. It is not up to you to decide. We need to investigate to know." The 1,000-man general looked at Yongye Chushue. "You are also a suspect. Take him away." Yongye Chushue was a precious person. She had never been treated like this before. She was about to lose her temper but was stopped by Su Yu. "Don't fight. Otherwise, you will be guilty even if you are innocent." Yongye Chushue was secretly puzzled. With Su Yu's strength, he could easily escape from the siege of the Shui nation monarch, Prince Yun and Azura. How could he be afraid of a few insignificant soldiers? Yongye Chushue's bright eyes flashed slightly. She calmed down and cooperated with them. She was arrested and taken to a temporarily built cell. There were many people in the cell who looked very similar to the wanted picture. Su Yu was one of them. He and Yongye Chushue were locked in the same cell, but no one came to interrogate them. Almost at the same time that Su Yu was arrested, a large number of people were arrested one after another. Anyone who looked similar was arrested immediately. Yongzhen City was in an uproar because of this. Half a day later, they finally stopped arresting people. However, a group of black-armored soldiers with crossbows rushed in. All of them were murderous, and the crossbows in their hands were specially forged. The black-armored soldiers might not be strong themselves, but even a level 4 deity would not be able to withstand a volley of hundreds of crossbows. The crossbows were aimed at them, ready to pull the trigger at any time. Yongye Chushue's face changed slightly, and she said telepathically, "Be careful. These crossbows are specially made by the heaven-defying empire. They are very powerful, and ordinary deities will be killed with a single touch." Su Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Dong! Dong! At this time, surrounded by several generals, an old man with a wrinkled face and a withered body walked out. His strength was as high as a level 4 deity. He was one of the 3 commanders under the eldest prince. Withered wood old man's dim yellow eyes looked at the cells that were crammed one by one. There were about 100 people in them. "Commander Withered Wood, I am really not a wanted criminal. I only have the strength of a level 1 mortal fairy. How could I have killed so many experts of the Condor Alliance with a single thought?" A young man in luxurious clothes, who was obviously from an extraordinary family, pleaded. Withered wood old man did not look at him and waved his hand. The confidant beside him understood tacitly, took out a crossbow, and shot an arrow at him. Unfortunately, he was just an ordinary level 1 mortal fairy. How could he resist the blow of a crossbow? He didn't even have time to scream before the young man was killed by the arrow. The confidant put down the crossbow and said with a smile, "Commander, it seems that he did not lie. He really did not do it." Withered wood old man said indifferently, "Well, inform his family to come and collect the body." The confidant smiled and looked at the hundreds of people in the cages. He was full of hostility. "When I did not give you permission to speak, you spoke without permission. This is the consequence. No matter who you are, what your status is, and who you work for, you will all be executed." Chapter 1374. They realized the seriousness of the matter. The other party did not care about their lives at all. The withered old man opened his indifferent eyes. "Tell me, who is this person? Step forward." He unrolled the scroll in his hand. It was the image of Su Yu's eyes when he had killed the waiter. "You did not kill for money or profit, and the people you killed had nothing in common. So, I think you must have your own reasons. If you are willing to confess, I can consider sparing your life." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone looked at each other. They were all suspicious of each other, and no one was willing to step forward to confess. It would be strange if they were willing to confess. Once they did, they would die. Judging from his ruthless methods just now, he didn't seem to be soft-hearted at all. After waiting for a while, there was no response. The withered old man said calmly, "Kill him. It's best to kill him all at once. Even if we can't kill him, we can force him out." As soon as he finished speaking, the 100-strong crossbows started to kill. The people who were captured were filled with grief and anger. This was simply disregarding human life. Without even interrogating them, they were all killed. It's better to kill the wrong person than to let them go. "Don't leave a single one alive," the withered old man said calmly. "After this, spread the word that they were killed by that homicidal maniac." The confidant grinned. "I understand. Don't worry, Commander." Swish, swish, swish. God-destroying arrows covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping the hundreds of people who were captured. It was obvious that they had the power to exterminate them. The people who were captured finally resisted, but the door of the cage was extremely sturdy, and they could not move it in the slightest. They could only watch as the terrifying arrows shot towards them. Roars of anger, unwillingness, and fear mixed together to form a tone of despair. However, just as the arrows were about to kill them all, a strange scene suddenly appeared. 100 arrows suddenly froze in the air, motionless, as if time had stopped. The withered old man's indifferent eyes suddenly shone brightly, and he glanced at the people present like a cheetah. The black-armored soldiers were also stunned. This was the first time in their lives that they had encountered such a strange scene. At that moment, a scene that terrified them appeared. The arrows that filled the sky suddenly turned and aimed at the black-armored soldiers, shooting out in unison. In an instant, screams filled the air. More than half of the 100 black-armored soldiers were instantly killed or injured. Only Gumu, who protected him, and a few of his trusted aides, managed to escape this calamity. "You really are here." The withered old man was both scared and pleasantly surprised. He shouted, "First Prince, please show yourself and kill this thief." He shouted towards the sky. However, there was no response even after a long while. There was only a clear and calm voice. "Your first prince probably won't be coming." Shwa, a middle-aged man in a white robe, descended instantly. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and calmly looked at the withered old man and his confidant. The withered old man's pupils shrank and his heart pounded. In front of this person, he felt as if his breathing had stopped. This kind of feeling was not something a level 3 deity could give. You are." Withered Wood's throat seemed to be blocked by something, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. He had guessed the identity of the white-robed man, but because he had guessed it, he felt incomparable despair. The middle-aged man in white smiled faintly. "Since you know, then rest in peace." The middle-aged man in white did not move at all, but Withered Wood and his confidant died silently. Especially Withered Wood, whose body was cracked, as if he had suffered some kind of powerful and strange secret attack. The middle-aged man in white raised his eyes and glanced at the people in the cage. Everyone who was seen by him was horrified, afraid that they would die tragically. When his gaze swept past Suyu, his eyes stopped and he smiled faintly. "We meet again." Suyu was also secretly surprised. Wasn't this man the one he had met at the staircase in the restaurant that day? It was him who had caused the wizard power hidden in Suyu's body to fluctuate uncontrollably and almost be exposed. "You are the one who recently killed the wizard hunter." Suyu's eyes were solemn. "Can you tell me the reason?" The middle-aged man in white looked indifferent. "The reason? Haha, didn't I do what you wanted?" "What?" Suyu was shocked again. He had only revealed his intention to eliminate the traitor when he was alone with the short, long-bearded man. Could it be that the middle-aged man in white was also present at that time? If that was the case, what was the cultivation of this person? Also, the level 3 first prince was supposed to be lying in ambush outside the cage. Once a suspicious person appeared, the first prince would kill him. But at the moment, the first prince was nowhere to be found. He had most likely been scared away by this person. The extent of his strength was self-evident. The level 2 realm was the terrifying realm of the rulers of the 4 great empires. Boy, we will meet again if fate allows it. The middle-aged man in white smiled, but when his eyes swept over Yongye Chushue, he frowned and thought for a moment. Then he revealed a meaningful look. I think we will definitely meet again. When he finished speaking, the middle-aged man in white disappeared. Dong! Dong! Perhaps sensing the movement in the cage, the Thousand General led the guards to descend, only to see the injured black-armored soldiers and the dead withered wood old man. Who did it? The Thousand General's hands trembled. In just a short while, the withered wood old man had been killed on the spot without even being able to resist. Looking at the prisoners in the cage, it was obvious that it could not have been them. The murderer was someone else. Tell me, who is the murderer? The Thousand General shouted coldly, grabbed the crossbow on the ground, and aimed at one person. Perhaps because of fear and terror, the Thousand General did not wait for him to answer. He shot an arrow and killed him. As soon as he died, the rest of the prisoners panicked and felt that they were going to experience another massacre. At this time, several golden lights flashed, and the door of their cage was broken. The people who had been captured were overjoyed and rushed out. The Thousand General was shocked. Stop! Those who disobey the military order will die. Get lost. I obey the military order, but I will still be killed. Brothers and sisters, let's rush out. No one doubted the man's words. If he stayed in the dungeon, he would definitely be killed, and then the guards would push the blame on the middle-aged man in white. Suyu also hid in the crowd and escaped with Yongye Chushue. When they came out, they went straight to the suburbs and did not stay in the city. Fortunately, the mysterious man intervened. Otherwise, we would have died. Yongye Chushue was afraid. The ruthlessness of the guards might not be a concern, but the first prince was waiting outside, which was really unexpected. Suyu said, I am a little sorry that I could not kill the highest general with my own hands. Opening the list, the highest general who participated was one of the 3 great commanders, the withered old man. He instigated his confidants and ordered the soldiers to collect as many souls as possible on the battlefield, and then secretly gave them to the Saint of the Moonwatch sect to practice forbidden techniques. He collected the amazing benefits sent by the saint. Originally, Suyu wanted to kill the traitor himself, but he did not expect that the real culprit would appear. Yongye Chushue blinked. How powerful are you? Suyu smiled and said nothing. It might not be a problem to use all means to kill the withered old man, but he would have to use all his strength. Suddenly, Yongye Chushue said suspiciously, In the beginning, you controlled the arrow. Why is that technique so similar to the 6 fundamental laws of mind control of the Empire of Darkness? Yongye Chushue stared at Suyu. Did you learn it secretly? Suyu wanted to laugh. He did not learn it secretly. He learned it openly. Even my father didn't learn this technique. Where did I learn it from? This is a magical power that I practiced on my own, and it is somewhat similar to the secret technique of your Eternal Night bloodline. Hearing this, Yongye Chushue also felt that it was reasonable. This technique was lost in the Empire of Darkness. Where could Suyu learn it secretly? Well, I believe you. Yongye Chushue stopped thinking about it. What are your plans? I will hide and wait for your brother to bring the great desolation furnace. Then, I will immediately enter the lost nation, Suyu said. I have exposed too much. Yongye Chushue smiled mysteriously. If you want to hide, I have a good place to go. After a while, Suyu stood in front of a shop called the Heavenly Slave Cultivation Technique Palace. Do you have a shop here? Yongye Chushue smiled proudly. My shops are all over the major cities of the ancient god realm. There are many shops that you do not know. For some reason, she was very eager to show her excellent side to Suyu. Suyu praised her. You are a small rich man. The wealth you have accumulated must be amazing. Of course. Yongye Chushua entered the shop proudly. Sensing her arrival, two figures of the fifth heaven realm descended. Greetings, boss. They were very alert and changed their greetings. Yongye Chushua looked at one of them in surprise. Hua Chun? The young level 5 young man was none other than Hua Chun. Hua Chun was sad and happy at the same time. Hua Chun is sorry that I failed to protect the shop in the Shui nation of the Northern Territory. I only took 70% of the resources in the shop. The other 30% was blocked by them before I could take it. After experiencing a great disaster, Yongye Chushue's heart softened a lot. She comforted him and said, "It is not your fault. The Shui nation of the Northern Territory rebelled suddenly. It was not easy for you to take 70% of the resources. It is a blessing that you escaped alive. Get up and tell me how you escaped." Hua Chun said gratefully, "Thank you, Princess. I have been operating in the Shui nation of the Northern Territory for many years, and I have cultivated some spies in the royal family. When I learned that the Shui nation of the Northern Territory had rebelled and that the princess had killed all the descendants of the royal family, I packed up overnight and rushed to the nearest shop." As he spoke, Hua Chun was pleasantly surprised. "God bless me. I didn't expect the princess to escape here." As he gazed at Yongye Chushue, there was not only respect in his eyes, but also unconcealable admiration. "It is good that you survived. From now on, you and shopkeeper Zhou will manage this shop together. When the new shop is opened, you will be transferred to it." Hua Chen was overjoyed and offered a space ring. Yongye Chushue took it and glanced at it. She felt a little relieved. Fortunately, they did not let them off too easily. Most of the resources were taken back. After accepting the ring, Yongye Chushue said, "Well, clean up a secret room for the two of us." Only then did Hua Chun notice that Suyu was behind the princess. His face stiffened and he asked, "Only one room?" Chapter 1375. Yongye Chushue was used to being in the same room with Suyu, so she didn't find it inappropriate. She said, "Yes, one room. I'll get it done right away." "Yes." Hua Chen's heart was full of mixed feelings. He turned around and left. The moment he turned around, determination flashed in his eyes, as if he had made up his mind. What he didn't know was that at that moment, Suyu looked at his back thoughtfully. "Zhou Dali, keep the shop assistant's mouth shut. The news of my arrival with this friend must not be leaked, not even to the people of the Empire of Darkness." Zhou Dali said calmly, "I know what to do." In this way, Suyu and Yongye Chushue hid in a safe secret room. This lasted for 3 whole days. Everything was extremely quiet. One morning, Hua Chun anxiously knocked on the door of the secret chamber. "Princess, I have something important to report to you." Yongye Chushue immediately opened the stone door. "What is it?" Hua Chun looked at them and saw that they were neatly dressed. It didn't seem like they were doing something improper. He was slightly relieved and said, "Prince Wuheng has sent a message. He has arrived outside the city." Hearing this, Yongye Chushue was delighted. "Is my brother finally here?" However, Yongye Chushue was a little puzzled. "Why didn't my brother contact me, but the shop?" Hua Chun said, "There must be something wrong with the secret room. The isolation barrier is too strong, and the information from the outside world can't be transmitted in. Prince Wuheng just sent a message to us who are stationed here, asking if we know the whereabouts of the princess." Yongye Chushue observed the secret chamber and found that the restriction formation was indeed too strong, which made sense. Moreover, Hua Chun came all the way here to seek refuge, which showed his loyalty. She no longer doubted him and said happily, "Then quickly send a message to my brother to enter the city." "I'm afraid not. Prince Wuheng said that his identity is special, and he is not willing to meet the crown prince of the heaven-defying empire." Yongye Chushue thought for a moment and said, "That's true. The relationship between the first prince and my brother is not very friendly. Lead the way. I'll go to see my brother in person. As she spoke, Yongye Chushue pulled Suyu up. She behaved very intimately, without the slightest distinction between a princess and a commoner. When Hua Chen saw this, his face flashed with an undetectable gloominess. All right, I'll lead the way. Hua Chen took them to the outskirts and stopped in front of a dilapidated temple. Why hasn't he arrived yet? Yongye Chushue frowned. Hua Chen said calmly, soon, in the woods ahead. Yongye Chushue didn't think much about it. She was about to walk forward, but Suyu grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. Just as she was feeling puzzled, Suyu said leisurely, "Let's do it here. There are too many ambushes in that place, which is disadvantageous to our battle." Hua Chen's body suddenly stiffened and his expression changed drastically. He stammered, What did you say? I'm bringing you to see Prince Wuheng. What ambush? What battle? Suyu smiled calmly. The one you're bringing us to is not Prince Wuheng, but Prince Yun of the Shui Nation of the North Territory. Am I right? Oh, by the way, is that monk who likes to sneak attack also here? After she finished speaking, there was still no movement in the forest. Suyu curled his lip. Princess, we are willing to do you the honor of coming here, but they are too reserved to show themselves. What is the point of coming here? Let's go home. With that, he flew back with Yongye Chushue. Just as they moved, several streams of qi rushed out from behind them, passing them and blocking their way. Prince Yun, Azura. It's really you. Yongye Chushue was shocked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger as she glanced at Hua Chen. He had already hidden behind Prince Yun, and his face was full of resentment. Don't blame me, you forced me to do this. I have been conscientious and loyal to you, but you have never looked me in the eye. What about him? I don't know where this wild boy came from, but you are so shameless with him. At first, I was hesitant to help them, but you forced me to make up my mind. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Suyu. Betrayal is betrayal. Why do you have to come up with so many excuses to prove your innocence? Do you want to prove how pure you are? How innocent you are? How righteous you are? You can't eat swan meat, so you chose to be someone else's dog, and now you resent the swan for not giving you meat? I have seen too many narcissistic, self-centered people like you, and I feel numb. Hua Chen's face was livid. Suyu's words had hit his soft spot. After pausing for a moment, Suyu said, Also, there is nothing between me and your master. At most, it is limited to touching her. Of course, we are still pure. Only when your mind is filled with filth will you have such filthy thoughts appear in it. Yongye Chushue's face was flushed. This had always been a tacit secret between them. How could he say it in public? Did he want her to live? Hua Chen was furious when he heard this. What did he mean by touching her and she was still innocent? Haha, do you think I am a fool? Do you think I will believe you? Hua Chen bellowed. Suyu looked at him indifferently. Who do you think you are? Why do I need you to believe me? I am just defending Chushue's reputation and making an announcement. At this moment, Hua Chen was so angry that he raised his head and laughed. I have been annoyed by you for a long time. You have no ability, and you only rely on your face to win the princess's favor. What right do you have? Do you work as hard as I do? As he spoke, Hua Chen looked at the princess, cupped his fists and said, Princess, please have mercy. I want to fight him alone. This gesture was, of course, for the princess to see. Prince Yun and Azura, the two great masters, would kill Suyu, then capture Yongye Chushue alive and hand her over to him, forcing her to become Hua Chen's woman. This was all planned and he was too lazy to fight. This unyielding attitude was just to win the princess's favor. He hoped that after she became his woman, she would become willing to follow him. However, unexpectedly, Yongye Chushue nodded coldly and said, Okay, I will help you. I will not do anything. Wait. Hua Chen was stunned. This was not the plan. With Princess Chushue's favoritism, she should have tried her best to protect Su Yu. How could she agree? Was she not afraid that he would kill him? However, Hua Chen had no choice but to agree. On second thought, if he killed this man with his own hands, the princess would hate him for a while. However, after seeing his powerful strength, would she look at him in a different light? As he thought about it, Hua Chen revealed a smile and pointed at Su Yu in high spirits. Come out and fight with me. Su Yu shrugged helplessly and looked at Yongye Chushue. Women are really cruel. You just let him die like this. Not long ago you praised him. Yongye Chushue's eyes were cold. It doesn't matter if he betrays me, but if he insults you, he will die 10,000 times. Su Yu staggered and almost fell. Shouldn't he be the one to say this? Su Yu stepped forward awkwardly and looked at him calmly. I will give you a chance to fight. Hearing this, Hua Chen threw his head back and laughed wildly. Princess, it seems that your little toy boy has become so arrogant that he doesn't even know his own surname. Do you think we are playing house now? I can kill you in a second. You talk too much. In that case, you don't have to fight anymore. 2 purple gold rings flew out of Su Yu's sleeves and combined into one in the air. In an instant, they flew towards Hua Chen. Hua Chen's face suddenly changed, and he immediately used his magic power. The great rock spread. No need to spread, I will send you to the sky, Su Yu said lightly. He shook the divine feather of frost in his hand, and a strong wind swept him up into the sky. Clang! The purple gold yin-yang rings instantly caught him. Then, like a dead pig, he fell from the sky and hit the ground hard. His head was smashed so hard that he was dizzy. Hua Chen couldn't believe this scene. He couldn't even use his moves, and he was subdued by this man. Is this all your hard work? You spent all your time on women, didn't you? Su Yu smiled coldly. I told you, a self-centered person like you can only see yourself and not others. You are the only one who works hard in the world? You are narrow-minded and ignorant. Hua Chen shouted angrily. Let go of me, you little boy, if you have the guts, let's start over again. Su Yu smiled and shook his head in disappointment. I will return your words to you. This is not a game, but a fight of life and death. You are so stubborn even when you die, there is no point in keeping you alive. After saying that, Su Yu weaved a seal with both hands. The purple gold yin-yang rings shrank to the size of a palm, and Hua Chen's body and soul were crushed into pieces. With a wave of one hand, the purple gold yin-yang rings were called back. Su Yu looked at Prince Yun and Azura, who were calm and unruffled and had not made a move. He sighed and said, You too, when the hare is dead, the fox and the dog are cooked. This is the essence of a dog that bites, but you just watched him die. Both Prince Yun and Azura had fought with Su Yu before, and they knew how powerful he was. However, they did not stop Hua Chen from challenging Su Yu recklessly. Prince Yun said indifferently, Traitors, if they can betray once, they can betray again. What is the point of keeping them alive? Why don't you work hard and get rid of them for us? Azura's ferocious face was also smiling. It's a pity that this dog is not very useful, and he could not lure you into the trap. Otherwise, it would save a lot of trouble. I am very curious, how did this dog expose himself and make you so vigilant? Azura asked. Su Yu said, Do you still need to ask? Of course it is the motive. The world is vast, and he could have escaped anywhere, but he chose to escape to the remote Yongjin city. And I am a person who never believes in coincidences. Is that all? Azura asked. Su Yu said, Of course not. If it was a coincidence, I might not have suspected it. But he just had to hand over 70% of the resources he had retrieved. Haha, a smart shopkeeper would have taken 70% of the resources, concealed his identity, and used these resources for the rest of his life while the Empire of Darkness was in chaos, right? His excessive loyalty is the real flaw. So I guess there must be something wrong with him. Azura frowned and said, Then how can you be sure that it was us who came looking for you? No one knows where you've escaped to. Suyu smiled calmly. Isn't it simple? It is no secret that Yongye Chushue wants to go to the Lost Nation, and the nearest stronghold of the ancient god realm to the Lost Nation is this Yongjin city. Is it difficult to guess where she is? And if she wants a safe place to stay here, where is the safest place? Of course, it is her Tiannu shop. Clap, clap, clap. Prince Yun applauded. Clever. No wonder you could escape from Nitian-gyun and Yongye Juyang so easily. Yes, your hiding place was indeed inferred by us. I thought it would be a surprise for you, but it seems that we did not get what we wanted. However, you can escape the siege of the Empire of Darkness, but you cannot escape today. Prince Yun smiled mysteriously. Chapter 1376. The last time they fought, he had been poisoned and could not exert even 30% of his strength. The Azura had also been seriously injured by Yongye Chushue, who had unsealed herself. Now that the two of them had joined forces, Suyu could not escape even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. As for Yongye Chushue, according to the calculations of the king of the Shui nation of the North Territory, she was plagued by sorcery energy and could only protect herself. It was impossible for her to exert the strength of a level 3 deity, so she posed little threat. The only thing to worry about was Suyu. Although his means were not the strongest, he had many. He also had the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole, the world's #1 flying emperor-based saint artifact. If he wanted to escape, even the 4 emperors could not stop him. However, they must have come prepared for this trip. Prince Yun summoned a white cicada with a flip of his palm. The Azura took out a pitch-black cicada. 1 white and 1 black, the colors were symmetrical. 2 cicadas of different colors appeared behind him, flapping their wings. The white cicada flapped its wings, strangely dyeing half of the sky pure white. The black cicada dyed the other half of the sky pitch black. 1 white and 1 black, covering a large part of the sky. Even stranger, the shrouded sky would move with the movement of the 2 cicadas. To escape from this sky, one had to be faster than the 2 cicadas. However, the 2 cicadas were in the void, almost teleporting. It was impossible to outrun them. Suyu keenly sensed that under the sky formed by the 2 cicadas, the yin and yang energies were in disorder, greatly affecting the operation of the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole. In other words, he had lost the ability to escape. Your time has come. Prince Yun bellowed coldly. Azura, let's attack together. Finish this quickly. Boom. Prince Yun's palms revolved with divine energy. Having lost the true sky flute of heavenly melody, he could only rely on his physical body. Heaven-destroying God seal. His palms and fingers rotated, forming seals in the void. The divine energy in his palms followed the seals and condensed into a seal of 100 feet in circumference, full of majesty. Suppress. With a low growl, Prince Yun slammed his palms together. The 100-feet seal came crashing down like a small mountain. Suyu felt the air around him solidify, and his body trembled under the seal. The Azura looked solemn, bathed in the golden Buddha's light, and struck with both palms. Great Sorrow Buddha Palm. The frighteningly huge Buddha palm print emitted brilliant Buddha light and attacked together with Prince Yun's Dharma seal. Suyu was not afraid. You came at the right time. 100 deities contend. Suyu weaved his hands together and let out a shout that shook the entire universe. As if sensing something, a majestic figure appeared behind Suyu. It had black hair and black eyes. It was the figure of the heaven-defying divine warrior. Both Prince Yun and the Azura were shocked. Why did that silhouette look so much like the first emperor of heaven and earth, the heaven-defying one? However, what happened next shocked them even more. The second, the third, the fourth, the silhouettes of the gods kept appearing like bamboo shoots after the rain. In the end, more than 100 gods' silhouettes filled the sky. Among them, several phantoms gave off an unusually strong sense of oppression. The figures of the 100 deities descended, and all of them raised their heads to look at the Buddha's palm and dermic seals that were crashing down. Chi. Vaguely, it was as if they had uttered the word Chi in unison. The two attacks that were sweeping towards him were suddenly pushed back. Prince Yun and the Azura were horrified and retreated frantically. However, how could they avoid it when they were caught off guard? Both of them were injured by the magical powers they had cast. Prince Yun was in a better state. He was equipped with a top-grade defensive treasure, and a layer of fiery red barrier shielded him from most of the damage. He was only slightly injured. However, the Azura's injuries were serious. He had been struck by his own Buddha's palm. His chest was torn apart, and the godly spirit in his abdomen was also greatly affected. How did you train? 100 god silhouettes, is that even possible? Prince Yun was a person who thought highly of himself. Although there were many heroes in the world, he was confident that there were few in the world who were more talented than him. However, this kid, who was only a stage 4 mortal fairy, had condensed 100 divine paths in one go. This had completely subverted his understanding. Ordinary people had to spend their entire lives condensing one divine path, and there were only a few who could condense 2 divine paths. However, Suyu had condensed more than 100 divine paths. No one would believe such an amazing story even if they told others. The two of them joined forces to attack Suyu, but failed. Instead, they were repelled by Suyu using the god's silhouettes. Prince Yun's eyes gleamed coldly and he bellowed, "Fine. You deserve to die. I admit that you have some tricks up your sleeve, but it's time to say goodbye." When he finished speaking, he drew out an exquisite jade tiger. It was vivid and lifelike, exuding the majesty of a king among the demons. This jade tiger is a treasure passed down from the royal family of the Shui nation in the Northern Territory. In terms of power, it is far above the violet gold rings of Yin Yang. Suyu, prepare to die. Prince Yun instilled divine energy into the jade tiger. The jade tiger seemed to come to life. It grew with the wind, turning into a giant of 30 feet, and leaped in front of Suyu. The piercingly cold aura exuding from the jade tiger was several times stronger than that of an ordinary level 3 deity. Suyu shuddered slightly. This item was a consumable treasure with a limited number of uses. Otherwise, it would have become the sacred artifact of the Shui nation in the Northern Territory. A level 3 deity. Suyu took a deep breath, his eyes gleaming. "Alright, it's time to give it a try." As he spoke, a faintly discernible image suddenly appeared around Suyu's body. The world was dark and gloomy. On the boundless wasteland, an indomitable figure was looking up at the sky alone. The boundless sea was falling madly, as if to destroy all living beings in the world. The lonely figure gazing at the sky let out a cry that shook the primordial universe and time and space. "As long as the heavens don't die, the heaven fighting will never perish." In an instant, the lonely figure in the image overlapped with Suyu. It was as if he had walked out of the image. With a roar, Suyu and the overlapping figure in the image stepped onto the sea, taking 3 steps. The first step, the sky shatters. The second step, the green abyss fall. The third step, the world turns upside down. Rumble. The falling sea in the image was destroyed by these 3 steps. In reality, the terrifying jade tiger was howling madly after being stomped on by the 3 steps. Finally, with a crack, its body cracked, and it was beaten back to its original shape, returning to a small jade tiger. Prince Yun and the Azura were horrified. The secret skill of the heaven-fighting divine warrior, heaven-fighting 3 strokes. In their shock, the 3 steps stomped on them as well. A shrill scream pierced through the sky. The Azura, a level 4 deity, was crushed into pieces, and his soul was destroyed by the stomp. Prince Yun activated all his defenses, but he could not withstand the terrible power. His defenses were shattered layer by layer, and his entire body exploded into powder. Only his soul was left. Under the protection of a hidden defensive Emperor-based Saint artifact, he was lucky enough to survive. In the sky, the boundless fighting will lingered, faintly containing the unique power of the divine warriors of heaven and earth. However, the world was silent, as if it had been completely shocked by this move. Prince Yun's eyes were filled with horror. He turned his eyes and fled immediately. Unfortunately, Su Yu was not going to let him go. With a wave of his hand, the violet gold rings of yin and yang crossed the void and trapped him. Prince Yun finally panicked and was afraid. He finally knew that if his father had not arrived in the woods of drunken immortals, he would have been dead. Su Yu, I can give you whatever you want, as long as you let me go. Prince Yun begged, no longer caring about his dignity as a prince. Su Yu's eyes were indifferent. You shouldn't have come looking for me again. Otherwise, I wouldn't be interested in going back to the northern Shui nation to trouble you. As he spoke, his eyes gradually turned cold. Prince Yun was terrified. Knowing that he was about to die, he said immediately, "Wait! Don't kill me, I know a lot of secrets about the heaven-defying empire." Su Yu's eyes softened slightly. For example? Prince Yun was overjoyed and hurriedly dropped a bombshell. For example, I know that the eldest prince of the heaven-defying empire is actually, however, right at that moment, a tyrannical and terrible force silently attacked Su Yu's back. The force was ruthless and domineering, and it contained a rebellious will to destroy everything. It was the domineering rebellious will of eternal damnation for those who went against him. The attack was so sudden that Su Yu was caught off guard, making it even more difficult for him to avoid it. A sense of life and death crisis welled up in his heart. I'm going to die here. The thought reverberated violently in his chest. However, Su Yu was also a man with a rebellious will, and he would never bend to anyone's will. Suddenly, Su Yu turned around and replaced his singlet with his chest. In the eyes of outsiders, this was an even more dangerous situation. However, a pitch-black scale suddenly appeared on the vital part of Su Yu's chest. Boom! 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 The crazy, domineering force bombarded the scale. However, the scale seemed to have come to life, breathing in and out, absorbing 90% of the domineering, crazy force. Only 10% rushed into Su Yu's heart. With a slight buffer, Su Yu immediately activated the ice-blue divine armor to the extreme, and a great expanse of ice-blue divine light seeped out of his body. Poof! However, after a moment of stalemate, the divine light of the ice-blue divine armor was penetrated, and even the ice-blue divine armor itself was finally broken. The remaining half of the force was no longer hindered, and it pierced into Su Yu's heart with unstoppable momentum. Ding! With a soft sound, this terrifying force was like a needle that had hit an iron plate, dissipating into nothingness. The extremely dangerous blow was finally neutralized by the resistance of the fragment of law. Su Yu broke out in a cold sweat and looked back coldly. He saw a dark-skinned, short, and ordinary-looking young man standing behind Su Yu calmly. He held a long, curved sword in his hand, exuding extreme power. It was this sword that had given Su Yu a deep threat just now. If this sword had not been aimed at the heart, but at the head, how dangerous would it have been? You can actually block a blow from my life-reversing snake sword? The dark-skinned, short young man looked surprised. No one in the world could completely block this blow of his, except for the rulers of the 4 great empires. Not only did this person block it, but he was also unscathed, which really surprised him. Su Yu's eyes were cold. You are the first prince of the heaven-defying empire? Chapter 1377. Ha! The battle just now was so exciting. I didn't expect that apart from that good-for-nothing Yongye Wuheng, someone else could comprehend the essence of the heaven-fighting divine warrior. What an eye-opener! Su Yu's heart sank. Sure enough, the commotion just now had attracted the attention of the number 1 heaven ruler of the ancient god realm. Against this person, Su Yu had no chance of winning. At that moment, the first prince smiled and waved his sword again. Suddenly, another wave of terrifying reversal struck. Su Yu hurriedly dodged, narrowly avoiding it. But suddenly, he heard a scream. It was Prince Yun's soul, which had been destroyed by the sword. Su Yu suddenly realized that the one he wanted to kill was Prince Yun, to silence him. Before Prince Yun died, he said that the first prince of the heaven-defying empire was actually. Unfortunately, he did not finish. "What's the use of keeping a disobedient dog?" the first prince said indifferently. Prince Yun treated Hua Chun like a dog, and in the eyes of the first prince, he was also a dog, and he had suffered the same fate as Hua Chun. The first prince looked at Su Yu and Yongye Chushue, and his eyes lit up. "Ha ha ha, Princess Chushue of the Empire of Darkness is also here. Have you changed your mind and become my wife?" Yongye Chushue's expression was cold, and she said nothing. "Haha, it doesn't matter if you don't answer. Anyway, you are the woman that I, Nitian Hanxing, have decided on. Now that you are here, you don't have to leave. You will start serving me tonight." The first prince laughed heartily. Su Yu did not exist in his eyes. Nitian Hanxing was capricious. There were two things he liked the most in his life. First, fighting. Second, women. Wherever there was a fight, he would join it crazily. Wherever he went, there were casualties, and even people were plunged into misery and suffering. As for women, he attached great importance to them. He once swore that he would bring the best women in the world into his harem. In particular, there were two women whom he particularly singled out. The first was the Saint Lady of the Moonwatch sect. He once threatened to kill his way into the Moonwatch sect, just like his father, Nitian Gyun, and bring the Saint Lady into his harem. The second was the most beautiful woman of the Empire of Darkness, Yongye Chushu. He threatened that whoever married her would be his lifelong enemy. In this world, only he was qualified to have Yongye Chushu. When it came to women, he was quite similar to his father, Nitian Gyun. As he spoke, the eldest prince sucked in the air, and a strong suction force came out of his palm, pulling Yongye Chushu toward him. "Come here. Let this prince touch it first." However, right at that moment, Su Yu clamped the divine feather of frost and set off a gust of wind that swept Yongye Chushu away. The jade tiger on the ground, as well as the remains of Prince Yun and the Azura, were also swept away. The first prince failed, and his face was filled with hostility. "I have come here personally. If I let you escape, wouldn't that be a joke?" Shuar, the eldest prince, took to the air and gave chase. His movement technique was so fast that he caught up to them in an instant. But this place was still shrouded by the yin-yang cold cicada, and the yin and yang qi were in disorder, so he couldn't use the yin and yang tai chi wings to escape. Su Yu's gaze was calm and serene. Divine Thunder Pearl. Su Yu tossed out a fist-sized divine pearl that was covered in thunderbolts. After the divine pearl was thrown away, it immediately erupted with a large amount of divine tribulation. The eldest prince didn't even look at her. He just stared greedily at Yongye Chushu and said, "Chushu, you can't escape from me." Pow! With a flip of his palm, the life-reversing snake sword smashed the oncoming divine tribulation. The emperor-based divine thunder pearl was also destroyed on the spot. Su Yu's pupils shrank slightly. What a domineering emperor-based saint artifact! In his memory, this seemed to be an emperor-based saint artifact that ranked 30th. It was 8 places higher than Yongye Chushue's heaven-striped dragon sword. "Haha, you have a taste of my sword too." The eldest prince sneered and thrust his sword at Su Yu. This sword was aimed at Su Yu's head. Without the black scales to block it, without the ice-blue divine armor to offset it, and without the presence of the fragment of rules, this sword was destined to penetrate Su Yu's head. A deep sense of crisis was screaming in Su Yu's heart like a raging wave. Seeing that the sword was about to stab him, Su Yu suddenly activated the 6 fundamental laws of fundamental control at the critical moment. The eldest prince's expression changed, and the life-reversing snake sword in his hand suddenly broke free from his control. 6 Fundamental Laws of Fundamental Control. You are Su Yu. The eldest prince suddenly realized who the person in front of him was. In addition to the Empire of Darkness, the second person in the world who was proficient in the 6 fundamental laws of fundamental control was an outsider named Su Yu. And this outsider was wanted by the 4 great empires because he had many treasures comparable to an empire's heritage. The eldest prince couldn't help but laugh wildly. Ha ha ha! You are Su Yu. Heaven is on my side, you have actually delivered yourself to me. As he spoke, he held the life-reversing snake sword again. Although Su Yu was controlling it, the eldest prince used his tyrannical strength to forcibly hold it, and the 6 fundamental laws of fundamental control could not take the sword away. If you were a little more skilled, you might really be able to take the life-reversing snake sword, but unfortunately, you won't have the chance. The eldest prince licked his lips excitedly. Today is really a good day, a beautiful woman and a treasure in hand. Tonight, I will hold a banquet in the whole city and spend the night with the beauty. Ha 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 ha! But as he laughed wildly, several tyrannical breaths suddenly descended. The eldest prince's face changed slightly and his smile faded. The commander of the Empire of Darkness? Sure enough, 4 figures quickly attacked from the horizon. One of them was Yongye Wuheng, and the other 3 all exuded the terrible breath of the level 3 realm. The Empire of Darkness had actually sent 3 such strong men just to rescue Yongye Chushue at the critical moment of the dynasty's crisis? Yongye Wuheng's eyes were cold as he stared at the eldest prince. A leopard cannot change its spots. So many years have passed, but you are still the same, a demon among men. Outsiders only knew that Nitian Hanxing was like his father, obsessed with women. But few people knew that he was even more obsessed with women than his father, and was almost a demon. The women that he had touched were far more than the ones that the world knew. All of the concubines in his father's harem had been occupied by him, and even his biological mother had coveted him and threatened to bring the Holy Mother into the harem. Such a disregard for the laws of nature and the great way of human relations were shocking to outsiders. But in the heaven-defying empire, it was not impossible. Going against human relations, going against the laws of nature, and going against the great way was the strength of the heaven-defying royal family. Hearing this, the eldest prince laughed and said, "Why, do you still want your fiancée back? She has been tamed by me and will follow me completely, ha ha ha." Yongye Wuheng's heart ached, and his eyes were full of anger. Back then, he and the princess of the Taiqing royal family, Taiqing Xianxian, were in love, and they even set up a marriage contract. However, Nitian Hanxing took a fancy to her, and he swore that he would not stop until he got her. He really fulfilled his promise. On Taiqing Xuanxuan's first visit, Nitian Hanxing led an army to intercept her, took her away, and forcibly took her into the harem. For this, the Taiqing royal family and the heaven-defying royal family almost had a war. In the end, it was due to Nitian Gyun's strength that the Taiqing royal family gave in and was forced to marry Taiqing Xianxian. Today, 10 years had passed, and Taiqing Xianxian had never been able to leave the heaven-defying empire. She had completely become one of the many forbidden women of Nitian Hanxing. I have to say that you have a good taste. Taiqing Xuanxuan's taste in bed is extraordinary. Among my many women, she can definitely be ranked in the top 10. Yongye Wuheng clenched his fists, and his murderous intent soared. There were 3 great hatred in life, and the hatred of stealing one's wife was one of them. However, he could only endure it, because he was no match for Nitian Hanxing at all. Ha ha ha, thank you for sending me a beautiful little sister. Nitian Hanxing was arrogant, and he did not take the other 3 strong men of the same level seriously. Putting your fiancée and sister on the same bed, would it be a different feeling? A crazed laughter that was close to insanity blossomed on his face. Yongye Wuheng's eyes were red. Don't even think about it. Commanders, please stop him. Chushue, Suyu, go quickly. Yongye Wuheng shouted. Ah! Who can take away the person I like? Anyone who stands in my way will die. Nitian Hanxing roared, and the life-reversing snake sword swept across. The three commanders looked solemn, and they did not let their guard down just because the other party was alone. They exerted all their strength to resist. Su Yu, Yongye Chushue, and Yongye Wuheng took the opportunity to escape deeper into the suburbs, towards the fog. When they reached the edge of the fog, they would reach the lost nation. Yongye Wuheng stopped and stared deeply at Yongye Chushue, his face full of infinite love. Sister, you must protect yourself. Yongye Chushue was stunned. Brother, aren't you going to escape with us? Nitian Hanxing will not let you go. Some things have to come to an end. I have been running away for too long, and I don't want to run anymore. Yongye Wuheng clenched his fists. The world only knew that Yongye Wuheng's achievements today were all due to his talent. Only Yongye Chushue knew that he was only practicing to avenge his past humiliation. Even so, the gap between him and Nitian Hanxing was getting bigger and bigger. This time, after 10 years, he met his enemy again. He was so disheartened that he was ready to die. With that, Yongye Wuheng took out a sealed Great Desolation Furnace and handed it to Yongye Chushue. He looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression. The Great Desolation Furnace has a special seal of the Empire of Darkness. Unless Chushue is willing, no external force can break it. I hope you can keep your promise and help my sister complete the escort task. Su Yu nodded. No problem. After looking at Su Yu for a while, Yongye Wuheng let out a long sigh. Then don't come back again. Don't set foot anywhere in the ancient god realm. Yongye Chushue was puzzled, but Su Yu nodded slightly. Thank you for letting me go. Yongye Wuheng was shocked, but then he remembered Su Yu's scheming ability and smiled bitterly. You saw through me. Well, you came here this time to catch me, but you happened to meet Nitian Hanxing, Su Yu said calmly. Yongye Wuheng looked up to the sky and sighed. Maybe I should thank Nitian Hanxing. If he hadn't stopped the three commanders, I wouldn't have been able to stop them from catching you.